of the notables and all of your honorables. I'd like to say Hamgaka, Hamgaka. And this is a greeting.
Well said.
Thank you. Thank you. Asante Sana. I'd like to thank Prince Manka, Brother Mankam, and the many of you that I've had a chance to speak with. This is an honor. This is the first time really that I get to see many of you. And I'd like to thank those of you that I've been with for quite some time. And I've had the honor to be with you in Cameroon and at the Bimbia site on a Roots and Reconnection pilgrimage. There are several of you. So it's wonderful to see you again during what we call Black History Month 365, although it's officially over. Every day is Black History. It's an honor to be with you during Women's History Month, and especially on this day, the International Day of the Woman. We're not only celebrating this day, it's also a day to recognize the gender-based discrimination that still exists in so many parts of the world. We celebrate and we still work toward justice. I'd like to take a few minutes because I just can't wait to hear your questions. I'd like to take a few moments to talk a bit about Bimbia. Much of this, especially if you've read the books, you probably already know, but this is an important time to share. Bimbia in Southwest Cameroon, I'll see if I can pull this up for us. Can we see this? Yes. We see the African continent, we see the country of Cameroon, and we see that Bimbia is here. Bimbia in Southwest Cameroon, near Limbe. And many of you, if you haven't heard of Bimbia, you probably have heard of Limbe, is a memorial site for global Africa. That is for Africa and the African diaspora, because we know the progeny of Africa is the continent 6 region, and we are everywhere across the world. Bimbia is a site of capture, enslavement, and forced transport of Africans into unfamiliar lands. And if we look at the enslavement ships that I list in my books, we see that captures at this time, from the data that we know, began in the 1600s and went on through the late 1800s. So between the 17th and the 19th centuries of transatlantic slavery. So Bimbia is a site, this place here, of the African Holocaust, the Ma'afa, and what the literature calls transatlantic slavery, which ravished the African continent and was part of the European intended underdevelopment of Africa. That is, underdevelopment did not begin with the colonizers in the period of colonization. In fact, it began before, during the transoceanic slaveries, then the period of colonization, and then the missionaries, and then the period of neo-colonization. And we can continue because underdevelopment of Africa continues today. Bimbia is the site, and I'm gonna try to remove it from my screen now. Okay. Bimbia is the site that I uncovered in my research at Arizona State University, where I teach. I uncovered it in 2010 when I was a volunteer researcher with Africa's first DNA reconnection program. Yes, that's right. The first DNA reconnection program in Africa happened in Cameroon. And I uncovered this site when I was working with my student research team. Most were of African descent, and they all volunteered because the history, our history as global Africa, is so important to all of us. So Cameroon made history by hosting the first DNA research, the first DNA reconnection program in December of 2010 and January of 2011. And I always argue that this should be recognized by the African Union. Other African countries are now following suit, and we see that Sierra Leone is offering citizenship to its DNA diaspora. So is Benin, and so is Ghana. And I think we see this in social media now. We see this in global African news. But Cameroon, by far, was the first in 2010. And also we see this in Ghana. From Bimbia and other sites of forced embarkation in Cameroon that I've been able to identify, those include after identifying Bimbia, then I saw other sites. I identified other sites. Those include Rio del Rey. That is for those of us who are from Cameroon, Rio del Rey. There is Ambas Bay, that is just near Bimbia. There is Malimba, and there's also the Vuri River, which also implicates, and we see this in the records, it implicates the rivers Sanaga, Dibamba, and Nkam. At this point, and we find this in my 2022 book, Bimbia Dévoilée, we've now traced 221 European enslavement ships. If you have In Search of Bimbia, you have a total there of 166 enslavement ships. The work didn't stop. The research didn't stop in 2018 when this was published. We continued the work. I continued the work, and now we have found 221 European enslavement ships. By far, that is not the total. Those are the ones that we've been able to unearth at this point. So what we have now is 221 European enslavement ships that took Africans against their will to over 30 countries outside of the Cameroon territory. The country that we know today as Cameroon, that is the colonial configuration, and the configuration after a UN mandate in the early 1960s. The Cameroon territory was much bigger during the period of transatlantic slavery. And these 30 countries to which people of Cameroon ethnic groups were taken, they're as far as Argentina, the largest group of ships that I've been able to trace their disembarkations is to Grenada in the Caribbean, many to Panama, to Jamaica, and yes, to the USA and to the Canary Islands, where I just was a few days ago tracing the route of the enslavement ships that took our ancestors from the Cameroon territory. Until 2010, with my research, Bimbia as a site of enslavement was very little known. And I want to make it clear, I'm not saying that it was not known, because there were elders, in fact, who knew. Bimbia in 2010 was very little known to the world and to many Cameroonians who themselves admit, and some even ask, what are you doing? You're coming here to talk to us Cameroonians about transatlantic slavery. Our people were not taken from here. We were not victim. You know, you need to go to Nigeria, Ghana, Angola, and do the research there because that didn't happen here. So that made it even more imperative. That gave me even more of a drive to unearth the ships, the European enslavement ships, and other evidence. And we did. So the unveiling of Bimbia really began with the revolutionary DNA technology that was developed to trace roots. And many of us on this call have taken the test using this technology that was developed in the 1990s. Sorry? Yes? Okay. I thought that was a point. To trace roots, demonstrated with scientific evidence that many African Americans and other diasporans were tracing their roots to many ethnic groups across the Cameroon ethnic matrix. Now, that was a surprise because when we talk in the conventional sense and are taught at universities about transatlantic slavery and the African diaspora, Cameroon is not one of the countries that is focused on. Instead, we talk about which countries? Senegal, Ghana, Angola, Sierra Leone, as we should. So to find out that so many people were being traced back to Cameroon ethnic groups, that raised the question, is something missing in what we have been taught? And why has Cameroon been ignored? The ethnic links that were making the most connections to the diaspora in descending order are Tikar, and I heard that Prince mentioned Tikar earlier. The second group is Bamileke. The third and fourth, Hausa Fulani. And there were also other groups, many other groups to which diasporans were tracing their roots. And this includes such groups as the Massa, the Maka, the Mafa, Iwando, the Kotoko, Bassa, the Bakweri, and other groups as well. So comparatively and significantly, there are more DNA connections to Cameroon ethnic groups and to Cameroon in general than there are to Ghana, to Senegal, to Sierra Leone, to Angola, and to Benin. Yet when we talk about the African Holocaust, when we talk about the Ma'afa, we talk about the other countries that are mentioned as we should. But Cameroon has not been in that discussion. So I really, especially in the second book, I really probe the silence. Where did this silence come from? Where did this silence for centuries come from? And without this revolutionary DNA technology that was developed by global African scientists, we would not be where we are in talking about Cameroon today. It really broke the slavery wall and got us past that wall that many of us in the diaspora get to when we try to trace our roots. Beyond that time, there are no archives, there are no records. So this revolutionary technology just gives us so much, just gives us so much more. And Bimbia gives us then a chance to unearth Cameroon's history during the period of transatlantic slavery and gives us a chance to unearth the history of diasporas from wherever we are in the world back to Cameroon and back to Bimbia. And Bimbia is an apertura, it's an opening. It's an opening. Just look at how it led to these other points that are also slavery sites, memorial sites in Cameroon. And I'm also not arguing that that list is exhaustive. It's just all that we have been able to find out at this time. And I'm hoping that with other researchers, with my students, with many of us, we will probe, and we will find out more. When I mentioned that Bimbia was little known, part of the process, and I won't go into detail here because it's in the book, is the art jammers who began the 2010 African Reconnection program, which was just an excellent endeavor. Well, I asked them, excuse me just a second. I asked them, well, where are the memorial sites? Where are the slavery sites? Where are the sites that we may be able to go back to as Cameroonians, as DNA Cameroonians, as people of African descent, as global Africans? Where are the memorial sites that we can go back to? Like the Door of No Return at Ouida, like Cape Coast, Elmina in Ghana, like Bunch Island in Sierra Leone. I said, but we don't have memorial sites. I said, but how can that be? There must be an exit point if there are so many Tikars, Bamilekes, Houses Fulanis from Cameroon, Massas, and Kotoko. There must be an exit point. So that's how I began the search for the actual site. So a brother named Mustafa Ali, and I had never been to Cameroon. So I'm doing all of this in my office and at the library and in the archives. And I'm moving with my students to places where we can dig to unearth information. A brother named Mustafa Ali was advised that he should go to Limbe and ask some questions. And there's a family named the Fokumla family who I went to because I was also working with the Cameroon community in the Phoenix area. And so I'm finding all of this, but please, I need some help because in my studies, this is the first time I've learned about Cameroon and transatlantic slavery that I've had to dig up myself. And all of these folks are coming back with these DNA connections to Cameroon. I said, but there's no site, there's no memorial site. I can't understand. What is the exit point? So the Fokumla family went and talked to other folks in Cameroon, Miema Miambo, who my 2018 book is dedicated to. He was pivotal in the making that connection between the diaspora and Cameroon happen. So they were also working on their side, and we are talking. So Mustafa Ali goes to Limbe and he asks the elders, he says, I'm hearing about a place called Bimbia. There's a professor from Arizona State University who is saying that there's something happened here. She's tracing these European enslavement ships. So I'm going to read what I wrote. I also write about it in the books. The elders said, who sent you here? Why are you asking this question? Why do you want to know? And why are you asking questions that no one has asked in over 100 years? That suggests to me that they were keeping a secret. They were keeping a secret. And maybe a secret that they thought the younger generation would never question, that they may not have to reveal. So finally, we got some answers. The Fokumlas got involved. The Miambos got involved. And also what was happening at the time, people had begun to pull me aside and say, we still hold rituals. My family still holds rituals for my uncle who went to the field and never came back. He disappeared. We know that he was taken. So every 5 years, we hold a ritual for him. And maybe if he had children, maybe those children that he had somewhere in the world. We still hold rituals for my aunt who went to visit a neighbor and never came back. So these rituals, some of these rituals have been going on for generations in families in Cameroon. Just imagine someone was lost in the late 1700s, disappeared. Those rituals have been being held since that time. For those who were captured and taken away and forcibly taken in the diaspora. And that questions did not stop there. They said, okay, as you're doing this research, you're finding ships. Can you find our families? We just want them to know that we want them back. We never wanted them gone. So I think I'll stop here, partly because it's difficult for me to go on. And I know that we have some questions, and I'm going to ask Prince and Malcolm if I can, toward the end, maybe wrap up with a few words I'd like to share. The European enslaving countries, and I will stop here, so far on our list of ships. I'll just mention this here. If you can see, this is In Search of Bimbia. This is the list with 166 ships with 4 categories of data. This is comparatively, this is much more in-depth research that I got to do 4 years later with 221 ships. That gives so much more information. We have the owners of the ship, the captains, the year the voyage left Africa, the flag of the ship, the number of people believed to have been forcibly embarked, numbers of men, women, and children when that data is available, the number of people disembarked, which gives us a chance to also calculate the mortality during what is called the Middle Passage. I don't call it that because that's a commercial language for the enslavers, but the calculated mortality on the voyage of terror and the disembarkation points. So the European enslaving countries include Holland, Denmark, Portugal, Spain, Germany, France, Britain, and the US, and the disembarkations, the forced disembarkations from the Cameroon territory are to 30 countries outside of Cameroon. So thank you for your time and your attention. I look forward to discussion and questions, and I hope to share a bit more before we end the session today.
Yes, we have. So first of all, thank you. I'm glad you stopped because I was getting choked up just about the rituals that's been going on so long. So yeah, uh, Dr. Jason, and then we'll have Queen Mother Jackie speak.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Aubrey, and thank you, Malcolm and team, for putting this together. I won't offer soliloquy before my question. I'll get right to it. I'm overjoyed. So my last name, my given name, Vassar, comes from Holland. And I was given the name Elong by the Cameroon Royal Council. So I'm so happy to have a Cameroonian name. My question is, my wife's uncle traced his ancestry to the T-Car, and they have ancestry that's in North Carolina, much like myself. My oldest relative, who they called Rose Jones in the census, was enslaved in North Carolina before she was shipped to Marianna, Arkansas. And so I wonder, first of all, I need to get your books, but I wonder what the data suggests about that region of the world in relation to Cameroon.
Yeah, you're still on mute.
All right. That's a heavy question. Thank you for sharing this. And this kind of research, and I also want to applaud you for the work that you do. I follow, I appreciate, and thank you. And it's all part of, it's not just recovering the history, it's recovering ourselves. That's a deeper basis of this project. One of the authors, Ilu not wanted in Africa, Ilu not wanted in Africa, that's why you're not in Africa, brothers soul brothers, brothers soul sisters, that's not the reality of what happened. And North Carolina, it's very interesting because it's on the coast. We see that these enslavers use the coast for places of disembarkation of the enslaved. What I have found is a connection, not from the African angle, but from the enslaver angle, is that many who owned plantations where Africans were enslaved, they not only owned plantations in the US, not one, they may have owned some in North Carolina, South Carolina, relatives in Louisiana. They may have owned plantations in the Caribbean, and they may have been investors in voyages from the African continent. So I think if you're looking for a common thread, that might be the angle to pursue, the path to pursue. In fact, I'm doing some work now with plantations records that I can find in the Carolinas, because I have found one link that I am looking at, and it's certainly not through the enslaved, because there were no records really that were kept on us other than as commodities for the enslavers. So I would, that is one of the ways that I would pursue, trying to find out who the owners were, um, where the plantations were, if they owned other plantations, if they were investors in other commercial voyages. So I hope that that is helpful. This is really the methodology that you developed is really that you must develop to do this kind of research. Is a creative methodology. Of course, using ones that are reliable, ethical, that can be validated. And we also have to be creative in how we search for and unearth information. Also, I would check, because so many of these universities that we laud as prestigious universities, many of them also have ties to transatlantic slavery. So I would definitely also check university archives. And there are some in North Carolina that just may be deeply involved.
Got bingo.
North Carolina State University, we probably be one of them.
It can be. So
I'll be in North Carolina. That's why I know that.
Yes.
All right, Sister Jackie.
Oh, thank you. Sister Lisa, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I understand. I feel you, sis, really, right here. I feel you. And I read your first book. I didn't realize there was a second, so I'm definitely going to read that.
Okay.
But I would like to get more into the silence part, because that is a question that has just been eating me, even after reading your book even more.
Yes.
How come, if Cameroon was such a large part, how could the silence be so large? And why? You know, what can you share anything that you learned about that or have thoughts about that? What, you know, not just how, and my question, it's kind of two-part. One, how come we didn't hear about this? When we hear about Ghana, we hear about Nigeria, we hear about these other countries, why not Cameroon? And then from the Western side, honestly, I had no idea how heavily Germany, France were involved, especially in Cameroon.
Yes.
So again, how the silence on that side? What?
Yes.
Anything you can share on that?
Well, thank you for the question. And really, this is the question I think that eats at so many of us. This silence, where did it come from? How did it just, how did it muffle the conversations about what happened about this tragedy? So I'm just going to read something here that I write in Search of Bimbia that tells us about the scholarly piece. This is what we hear from the best of scholars. Cameroon had always been a minor slave supplier. So then the estimated total, about 46,000, doesn't represent a very significant portion. There's also problematic in the way that this is written, because 46,000 is significant. But this is what scholars are telling us. It's difficult in such circumstances to find out the number of enslaved Cameroonians. Ford, it says it does not appear that Cameroon played a significant role in transatlantic slavery. Published accounts are limited, the numbers are limited. So, as a graduate student, if this is what your professors, the best of historians, if this is what you are being taught, then you leave believing that, they are the best in their profession. So Cameroon, and I think that this is the conventional wisdom that was passed on generation to generation. It's kind of I think about it as they just eat off of what their professors told them. They don't break the mold, right? They just continue to repeat what they have been taught. So when I went to Cameroon with this information, with my colleagues, some of the most brilliant people I know, really, when I went to Cameroon, and they said, but what are you talking about? So-and-so says, the historians they've said this. And I said, okay, well, it's a shock for me too. And maybe this is how we break some barriers, and maybe this is how we get some truth about our own history. That's on the side of what we are being taught, and not only in the West, because the Western academia also dominates much of what we hear in the context of academia in Africa as well. Everybody is reading the same historians and repeating the same story. The second book, Bimbia dévoilée, is written in French. This was a way to share with the French reading and speaking audience, which is the majority of Cameroon, what I had written in Search of Bimbia. I say this at the beginning of the book, and I also go further. There's so much more that I have shared, including chapters really probing this silence. And what I find and what I demonstrate in the book is this was part of a colonial project to stifle what we know about ourselves. There were colonial officers in the countries that you mentioned who were posted not only in Cameroon, but in various African countries to supposedly help these countries move forward. And what happens is Cameroon is saddled with colonial officers who tell them transatlantic slavery didn't happen here. Instead, what your problem is in Cameroon is domestic slavery. And this is what we want you to focus on. So that becomes the narrative. The colonial narrative becomes, it's not what Europe has done to you, it's what you're doing to yourselves. So that's the conversation that begins in Cameroon, right? So what does it do? It divides us more than it gives us the opportunity to unite. And even in Cameroon now, much of the conversation is about domestic slavery and how this group held this group, right? And if you also follow the trend of research grants to Cameroon to study slavery, it's not about transoceanic slavery. It's not about external slavery. It's about what happens in Cameroon. which really shifts our focus internally, and we never look uh, outside of that. But what I was able to do, I was able to find a primary. I was able to find and deconstruct that narrative. I was able to deconstruct that narrative by using a primary source document that I found that gives an account of what happened during transatlantic slavery in the Cameroon territory. So I'm really trying to figure out how to get, we're working on it, trying to figure out how to get that information out also to the English reading public, because there's so much here in this French book that is not yet published in English, but I'm hoping to get that out soon. There's also a demand for the work in Spanish because there are so many of us as global Africans, people of Cameroon descent, living in Spanish speaking and Portuguese speaking countries. So thank you for that question. And we must probe, we must continue to probe that silence.
Yes.
I totally agree. Thank you so much, sis.
You're welcome.
Miss Jones? I can only go by your picture, so I'm Miss K. Jones.
Yes.
Get your hand up.
Yes. Hello. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you so very much for sharing that. I am just as choked up as everybody else after hearing this and about this silence and everything. Okay. I looked into my family tree years ago, just out of curiosity. And on my mother's side, the oldest person that I found, I can't remember her name, but she arrived here through Virginia in like either I think it's the early 1800s, I believe, or the late 1700s, something like that. And I was so proud, that was, I could find somebody on my own. It was like through the census records, how I found her.
Yes, congratulations.
Thank you. Well, okay, so she arrived through Virginia, but she was sent to Tennessee, or her descendants were sent to Tennessee. And ever since, like, everybody since her was in Tennessee, just all of my relatives on my mother's side. And when I got my results said they were from the TCAR, right? So I was really curious, like, what does Tennessee have to do with Cameroon? Like, I'm still kind of baffled. But earlier, Miss Jackie brought up this spices, and the spices were made in Tennessee for the motherland. So that is really something, like, that's a connection that I've never known. So that is doing something to me right now, because I never knew what Tennessee, I'm from Memphis, so I just had no idea what Tennessee would have to do with Cameroon. But I'm seeing it now.
Yes, thank you for that question and for sharing what you've shared. In fact, your question is so important because what this shows is that an enslaved person had no agency, had no choice, had no rights, had no say-so, not even your name. Our names were taken, identities were taken. The names that people carried were names of enslavers. Those were names that were assigned. You had no agency over where you lived, where you went. So that is about Tennessee. This is how some of us end up I'm from Louisiana. Some of us end up in Louisiana. Some of us end up in Panama. Some of us end up in Tennessee. Brother Malcolm and I were talking about Nova Scotia earlier. Some people end up in Argentina. Dr. John Henry Clark says that there's no difference between us other than where the enslavement ship dropped us off. So when we start talking about, I'm from this place or this identity, and those are objective identity. You have your passport, you have your citizenship there, and that doesn't minimize those things. But where many of us were born, that was not determined by us, especially when we look back at our ancestors. And part of the book, I write about Michelle Obama's, our First Lady Michelle Obama, about her enslaved grandmother. She was brought to one place and then given as a wedding gift to someone's daughter who married in another state. So this is what the places where we were born. Our ancestors, many of them didn't have a choice. It's like the enslaved who were sold by the priests at Georgetown University, sold from the DC area down to Louisiana. So I'd like to also, if I can, Miss Jackie, and of course I thought of you when you and I met over some emails. One of the things that I would like to mention is in the research, for me, one of the major things I was able to find when we begin to talk about issues of reparations, because that also for me has to be part of our conversation. I was able to find the largest enslaver of people of Cameroon ethnicities from the Cameroon territory. 3 years ago, I was also able to make a visit to the estate of this enslaver. And Ms. Jackie, I particularly want to mention this because the name is Davenport. If you have the In Search of Bimbia, on page 140, I write, William Davenport, an enslaver from Liverpool, England, one of the counties of Britain, had many enslavement ships that were registered under his name. 3 centuries. I go into some history here. He was called a slave trading merchant, and quotes venture capitalists and partners. He was in partnership in enslaving voyages. Even though commerce may be considered less overtly brazen than exploration by some, Davenport's impact on the Cameroon territory and legacy is one of marauding and looting. It's reported that at his death in Liverpool at age 72 or 73 in 1797, he had a wealth that would be equal today of $4,350,000 US. He had this in 1797. He had grown as a slave trade merchant, investing in enslaving Africans to become one of the richest men in Liverpool. And it is the Cameroon territory solely that enriched him.
Wow. Thank you, sister. I have to just say, Davenport is my ex's name. But everything that you say aligns, all that evilness. Yeah, that kind of makes sense.
So then I go then I go on to say how he is from a wealthy British family whose members are members of parliament. His brothers were involved. So we see the Davenport family becomes involved. So it's a family affair. And yes, their wealth was built off of the backs of ethnicities from the Cameroon territory. So when I got to England, I went to England and I have to see this. And of course, you can't tell them you're coming to see this, but I went to the place and the estate that has been there for centuries. It's palatial to the 100th power. So you see, once you begin tracing the ships and you have the names of owners and captains, you then see the legacy that they leave in their enslaving countries for their families, for what they marauded and looted, and people who they captured and sold, and some worked to death. You see that discrepancy. You see Bimbia, at one point difficult to reach because there's no road. And then you see the ostentatious, the palatial, the rich beyond, wealth beyond comprehension that you see in Liverpool.
I hear you. I understand where the connection that you are drawing and the parallel. Because yes, when today I hear allies, that wasn't me. That wasn't, it's like, yeah, but you benefiting off of what was done.
Yes.
And I'm carrying the weight of what was done.
Yes.
And that's what reparations is about. So I hear you, sis. Yeah, that, like I said, that's not my direct lineage, but it aligns 100%.
Yeah. Well, and what it also shows, more to my point than that being your lineage, is that many of us carry the names of the enslavers. So what this suggests, more than that's our lineage, is that we were part of that wealth-making machine, that our ancestors were part of their wealth-making machines. My name is Aubrey. If you are connected to France in any way, you may know the name Aubrey, still a very popular name in French politics today, a name that is well known. Aubrey was also the name of the French governor of Louisiana. And many of our ancestors, we carry that name.
I hear you, sis. I did a little research on my own, my own family, and my maiden name is McElroy, which I thought was an unusual name. My my line started, or as far as I can trace it back, Mississippi, and I thought that name is going to stick out like a sore thumb. I was shocked that there were so many Black McElroys, and then I realized, oh, you know what? These are people who, that is the name that was passed from the enslaver to all these Black people. That'll make no sense for a whole bunch of Black people in the South to carry Scottish or, that makes sense. So I hear you.
And that was just the people who kept the name. So absolutely, just like how many people who didn't keep the name. But let's get on, because I see we're going to be on chapter 1 for the rest of the night. We're not going to get on. So after Dr. Gomwell speaks, then we'll go back to Dr. Aubrey for a little bit more, and then we'll come back with more questions. So right now we got Queen Mother and Gossam.
Mute. Okay. Dr. Aubrey, thank you so much. The first time years
You're
ago,
welcome.
I came across your video, and it's a utmost honor to actually be in the setting, because I was just you were giving a speech, and you were actually in Bimbia, and I didn't know about it, and this was years ago, and I'm like, how did she? And I was just all animated and just, and over the years, yes, I haven't, I don't have your book, but when I think Sister Jackie asked the question, why is the number? They're talking just a low number of slaves that left Cameroon. I just want to say, you answer already. I just wanted to add, yes, just like with slavery, the stakeholder, people calling the shot, they make sure it's only what they want out to be out. Throughout my journey, my academic journey, I also learned that even when there was a proclamation of the what Abraham Lincoln said, there was end of slave, there was still a boat that left that was already we say that in French, chargé. They were uploading a boat, and that boat still went around and trying to find a way to get somewhere. And with that being said, those who are calling the shot, what I also learned is that this was news to me, because growing up in Cameroon, learning about the history, what we're learning about is what the oppressor want us to know. I'm not learning about the true thing. And I thought in mine, the expression, I learned this from my daughter. I have two daughters, but this one we're just very close. And she's like, it's not funny when the rabbit got the gun. So you got the gun, and it's not funny. Since people started coming out and telling the true story, it makes a lot of people uncomfortable. It's intentional, because the Cameroon government is what we know it is. When I saw your video, there were no road to leading there. You were making a speech. It was just very emotional for me. I'm like, this is not right. This is just not right, because we know about Ghana, we know about all these other places, the place of no return, but I didn't know about that. The first time I heard about it, it was from you. And I go to Limbe, even recently, my son, when we were going, and it's like, oh, let's make a plan. You know that thing, you've heard that place being. I said, CJ, we're not going anywhere, because right now it's not a peaceful place. And as you were starting, you say if we go to Limbe, we ask. I live in Limbe when I go there, because there's nobody. My parents passed away, they live in Douala, and there's nobody for me there. And my sister is here now. So, but with what going on in Limbe, even asking is, to me personally, I just feel like I'm exposing myself, because when I go there, I try to keep a very low profile. I try to keep a very low profile, because they just, it's very funny how we engage with one another. Somebody
Where are
would
you
go.
from, sister? Where are you from? Are
I'm
you from
Bamleke. I'm Bamleke.
From
Yeah,
where?
from Bangante, from Dende.
Bangante. What is very interesting about Bangante, I thought you might be from there. Bangante actually means we stand against slavery.
Yes.
That is so this is really important. And you are from a very historic village.
Yes.
A king of Bangante was taken to Bimbia. He stood up and he says, you will no longer take any of my people. So Bangante, we stand against slavery.
And that's also to add on that, the not mascot, the theme, I don't know how you call that. Our motto, the motto for Bangante is noblesse, dignité, élégance. So we stand above everything. And my father didn't teach me that. It just was too much into religion. but the culture taught me I have to stand apart from the rest. That just people would approach me and look at me and say, you must be Bangante. And I actually have somebody, an African, a fellow African from Ivory Coast. And he met me. I had a store in Washington, D.C. And he came, and some of the employees told him that's the wife of, she and her husband got the store. And he looked at me, he said, you must be Bamleke. I said, yeah, how do you know? It's like, you must be from Bangante. You must be from the day. I'm like, what are you talking? And we just started laughing. He said, you don't even need to, I can see it in you. So yes, Bangante. And that's what I wanted to add to that. Those who were calling the shot decided what the image was going to be in the world. And we had no say in it. But gradually, the truth never stay on cover for long. And my second thing, when you went to England, did you go by any chance did you go to Portugal? Because it's only also recently that I found out we were in Portugal in 2023 or 2023. And my daughter booked us an African tour. And my goodness, this was an eye-opening. And we went to the port, the tourist area. We went to the place, it's now all remodeled, but the very first transatlantic slave ship in the world landed there. And it's from there that they sent shipment everywhere. And we went through the steps. There's a path there throughout the tour. It's, I think, 217, if I'm not mistaken, steps. That's the number, that's to commemorate the number, the first shipment of slaves. And we had to walk those steps. And I was just tired. People were tired. But then the tour guy is the guy from Togo. He was very animated. When he's coming and he's coming around us who are African, he's like, the reason why this, and that just gave you this energy, because it was just taking us the tour. I was very enlightened by that experience. So if anybody, if you cannot have time to go all the way to Cameroon, to Bimbia, because right now the area is not safe, if you can go to Portugal and book that African tour. We went to where the boat would come. They would take the slave like ships and go to this public place. That was the only place where Black people were supposed to be seen in daylight. At night, they would come, even those who are waiting to be sold, or those who they did not send anywhere, or those who are sick, they just come. And even that day, you can still see some of them. This is the place where you can see the most African Black people. And they're just there playing chess. And just most of them are, not to say they were only Muslim, but they're just there hanging out. And you just feel the church that gave the authorization for the transatlantic slave. The church is there. We were there. He had the copy of the document, and it was very chilling to see and to experience all that today. Looking back and thinking, we don't even know half the truth that is out there, and it's up to us really to find out what we can find out about our own history. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, that was powerful. Dr. Gamwo?
Yeah, thank you again. I don't have really a question, but perhaps comments. Dr. Aubrey, your work is remarkable, commendable, and in fact admirable. Even to me, who was born and grew up in Cameroon until I was in my mid-20s. In fact, I have been interested in the Limbe. I even tried to get a piece of land out there. I made some progress, and somewhere, as you know, with the administration, it didn't fall through. And yet, I never knew about Bimbia. You know, this is the first time that I'm hearing about this. So it has been successfully kept quiet. It kept silent. You know, even for us who grew up there. And I just wanted to add that in addition to the explanation that you gave, that's true. You know, I mean, our history is written and it's not written by us. You know, so people who write it, they write what they want the world to know. And this is not only for Bimbia, but there is also like in the Bamileke region where I come from, especially in my area, there was a genocide. It's like a taboo, you know, to talk about it. You know, so it's parallel to what I'm hearing now, which I'm discovering today. That, you know, I mean, you cannot even talk about it in school and anything. You know, oh shit, you know, don't talk, don't talk about it. So I think it was intentional, you know, to keep it silent. And I'm very, very glad that you were able to unveil that. Now. In terms of, as you know, in Cameroon, you have to have connections to make progress, you know. And I'm here also to tell you that, I mean, I don't like the government in place, but I do have people who are in the government. I have good connections with them, be it from the administrative authorities or traditional authorities. You know, I do have a connection. If there is anything that I can do, please don't hesitate, you know, to let me know. And finally, you know, I'd really, really want to get the latest edition of your book. I don't see the link on the chat, but you know, maybe brother Gordon will give it to me and I will make sure I get a copy. And frankly, I have perhaps at least 3 books that I purchased recently. I've not read, you know, any of them. I'm not a good reader, but this one I will make an effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. If I can say to Honorable, I've had the blessings really to spend quite a bit of time in the west of Cameroon with a dear sister in Bangu, in Bangante, in Bamina, in Bafoussam, in Fumbot, in Fumban, in Chung, in many of the areas, because really talking with the community and really trying to unearth, to pull those histories that the elders still have so much information, I think, that is useful for us. And during those times, I want to also say this was on a visit to Bayangam. I learned about the genocide and in the Bamileke area, genocide by the French against Cameroonians, and was taken to the site. Since I've been back to the site many times to pray, to learn more. And I also had the same question that this is a memorial site. It is not linked to transatlantic slavery, but it is a patrimonial site, which I believe should also be recognized. With the Cameroonian government, I'm shifting back to Bimbia now, and I provide the documents. I was able to work with the government in 2013 to have Bimbia declared a national cultural heritage site. This is the first and only site in Cameroon now that memorializes transatlantic slavery. I stayed on the file. I really stayed on the file. And in French, the law is called the arrêté, that was passed in 2013. So that's in Bimbia Dévoilé, the English translation of the law. And for many on the call, Cameroon is a bilingual country. So you have the French and the English. So you have the French version that writes the law to make the declaration, the arité, and then you have the English version as well. And there is much to do, and I'm really happy to hear your words. Bimbia is now, and I think we circulated this, and if we haven't, we certainly can. Bimbia now, because of the work that I was able to do, and I have a U.S. research team, students, and also a Cameroon research team who is as effective, as diligent, who works as hard. We were able to do the work, and Bimbia is now on the UNESCO tentative list of World Heritage Sites. So Bimbia is now for Cameroon on the tentative list of UNESCO World Heritage Sites. And it's a patrimonial site, thank you, patrimonial site, not only for Cameroon, but for the Cameroon diaspora as well, for all of Africa, for all of the African diaspora, for global Africa. And this is a file that really deserves to be recognized, and Bimbia deserves to be moved from the tentative list to the final list, and deserves the declaration as a World Heritage Site.
So here's what we're going to do from this point. So let's go, Audrey, Boris. I want y'all to hold your questions right now. I want everyone to, one, put your questions into the chat in case we don't get to them, so that you'll have them on your mind and we can have Dr. Aubrey get back with everyone. I would also ask everyone to put their email address, their name and email address, because some of you will have names which, I won't be able to get everything. Put your name and your email address, and as she answers the questions as we go forward, I can make sure that I get the questions out to everyone. But right now, we want to get back to Dr. Aubrey, because she ain't even got through chapter 1, and we are going to have a lot more questions. So let's go, and Audrey, keep your hands up, and that's okay. But we're going to have Dr. Aubrey go ahead and give a little bit more, so we don't have to be here till midnight. So she can just share a little bit more, and then we'll get back to the both of you. All right, Dr. Aubrey, on you.
Yes, I think I'll be very brief, because I think to answer the questions, I'd like to spend more time doing that.
Well, we can if you want to, because I haven't even got to my questions yet, but I want everybody to get their questions if that's the case. But I know we only got through chapter 1. And if you wanted to do a brief quiz on everything else, and then we can get back to the questions.
All right. And if I can suggest this, if everybody can write their questions, and maybe I can get 3 at a time and then answer 3 questions at a time. If everybody can list their questions, if that would be okay.
Yes, that's okay with me.
All right. So the elders knew that something terrifying and unspeakable had happened at Bimbia, but their fear, pain, and what they called their shame kept them from talking about Bimbia. It's important to let them know that their shame is unmerited and unjustified. They asked, but how could our ancestors let this happen? How could we allow Europeans to take others away? There was an imbalance of power. We on the Africa side were welcoming and says, you know, we've got some visitors, not knowing that they had guns and other intentions, not knowing that if they saw Prince, if they saw Prince, they said, we're taking you, and if you don't bring us 300 people tomorrow, we're taking away your mother, your sister, your wife. What would Prince do? Would he let them take his mother, his sister, his wife? No. He'd probably go to another place not familiar to him and get the 300 people in order to keep his family safe. It was trickery. And we see repeated trickery in different parts of the world. We hear this repeated as what happened in Ghana, as what happened in Benin. Why would the same thing not happen in Cameroon? So we also see that one of the things that I conclude is that, and maybe people didn't talk about it because no one wants to revisit the pain if they don't have to. So many at Bimbia, and I talk about this more, brought from throughout the Cameroon territory. So it wasn't only the people at the coast, it was many from the grassfields. And this group is called ReConnected Grassfields, although we know it's more open than that. I want to mention the grassfields. So this is how the Tikar and the Bamileke end up number one, number two, in terms of DNA connections in diaspora. Many were brought from the grassfields. And I think I'll just end by saying that European enslaving records show that they particularly feared the women. It said women were among the fiercest of the resistors, attacking enslavers with any means and by any means. And I think it's appropriate to say this on March 8th, International Women's History Day, and during Women's History Month. So we mentioned some other sites: Gore in Senegal, Cape Coast, Elmina in Ghana, Ouida in Benin, Badagry in Nigeria, Bunch Island in Sierra Leone, and others. It's important to also state that Bimbia, in terms of its land space, is bigger than all of these sites, measured by the land space and the remains that are still at the site. There were, at last count, 9 vestiges that are still there, but I believe that once the site is probed even more by the people from the area who've lived in the ecosystem for a long time, who respect the environment, they know the trees, they know the bush. I believe that there are other vestiges that are also still there. Bimbia, in terms of its land space, is measured at 56 hectares. 56 hectares. I believe with more research, we'll find that Bimbia is even larger than that. One UNESCO expert said that Gore in Senegal is a building. Elmina and Cape Coast, there are dungeons, but Bimbia is a village. And those of us who have had a chance to go to Bimbia, we see its size. So to date, in terms of the land space, Bimbia is the largest site of transatlantic slavery on the continent of Africa. So there's a lot more research that needs to be done, and I'm giving my all to it. So.
And we definitely appreciate all that you're doing. Man, this is just awesome. And so I'm going to hold my questions, and hopefully we'll get them in to the last so everyone else can ask their questions. So now, as you all know, that was the abbreviated version because there's so much more in that book. So the first thing I would say is that Montcalm posted the link that we have in the chat for the book. You just got to scroll up some to get it, hit on it, and go ahead and order that book. For those of you who are French speaking, Dr. Aubrey, you have to get that one to put it in there for them. If they can even get it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes. The book is there.
Yeah, so you would just have to put the link in the chat for those who are French speaking to be able to get it. I know Dr. Guamo said he wanted to get that version of the book. For the rest of us, we'll just have to deal and wait for her to come out with the next version so that we can get the updated stuff. Yeah, and I'll go from there. But Audrey, you can go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I did write what I wanted to say. So I just wanted to say a great big thank you to Sister Lisa. Because when I went to Cameroon, we were not able to go to Bimbia because the skirmish had gotten a bit more violent. I was excited.
What year was that?
That was 3 years ago. And we were supposed to go on my birthday. We had to cancel that tour. So I was very disappointed in not being able to go to Bimbia that year. But last year when I decided to write my book about finding evidence that the boobies and the tickers, etc., because those groups are never mentioned in Jamaica. I had credited myself with having a very strong background and knowledge of history, of my, especially sugar and slavery in Jamaica. I'm a history major. But unfortunately, right up to where I studied the master's level, as usual, Cameroon was not mentioned. All the tribes and all the books published in Jamaica that I have read so far, and I've been out of Jamaica for almost 27 years, never mentioned. So when I decided to write my book and I got stuck in trying to prove that the tickers and the boobies, etc., were indeed in Jamaica, I tried to use a language, the patois, words. When I went to Cameroon, I heard a little of some of the extra words spoken by the Douala in Cameroon. And I was like, what does that mean? And it meant the same. So the boobies and the Douala are the few words that my ears had picked up, and I'm not versed in the language. So doing that, but I got stuck to find the hard evidence. So when I saw your book on Facebook, so when I purchased it from you, I read it from cover to cover. So then I remembered something I read in your book, and I went back, and that is what helped me to finish my book, because you mentioned, I found the ships, 21 ships sailed from Cameroon directly to Jamaica. Proof. Yes, they left from Cameroon. Then I said, but how can I prove that the people who speak this language, because they had to end up in a certain part of Jamaica where my mother's people. Then when you talk in the book about each slave, let me say, the ship, whatever, had a certain mark that they would brand them there. Some would brand the ears on it, and you mentioned Moko. The mark. I said, okay, we have a place in Jamaica called Moko. And a very old area called Moko. And then years ago, I read the runaway slaves, the newspaper articles in Jamaica. And when there some documents, some of the article, the ads stated that the slaves, the runaway slaves, were from the brands that they had on them. They were Moko, but they had grouped them. They had grouped them in clusters. So I said, okay, so here is evidence that, and they used the mark because the slaves that came from that area were called Moko. So thank you, my dear sister. I'm sorry I can't read the French by the second book, but may you continue. May the soul never leave you. May the passion never leave you. My heart and my soul is with you. I cheer you on. I carry you forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Big embrace. And you know, I was following you as much as I could and I still follow you now. So it's wonderful what you are doing and the connections that you are making. And yes, Bubi figures prominently. And when you read about Bimbia, Bubi is there. And in Equatorial Guinea, it is there. And I'm so happy that the words that I use here, that I am so inspired to write, can help you with your search. Big, big, big embrace.
Thank you. Thank you. Love you much.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, brother. So let's go. Brother Celeste.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Could you say your name, please, so we'll know how to say your name?
Okay, I'm Sulesko Mbwan.
Sulesko Mbwan.
Yes.
Okay.
I am an indigenous Chika from Cameroon. Born and raised there. I got here when I was almost 40. The story Dr. Lisa is saying resonates with me more because I was educated in the Anglo-Saxon educational system. Most Francophones don't know anything about Bimbia because it is found in the Anglophone area. Our history books that we had, S.N. Tita and all those old books, we had them. But the French system decided to suppress all that history and started teaching us something. That is why they don't know anything about Bimbia. But if you go to the Anglo-Saxon educational archives, the history we had, all of which was suppressed just because they wanted to harmonize, as they said, created this vacuum in the knowledge when you go to their library, because the plebiscites, the 1972, they don't even celebrate the real independence, the Francophone, they are real independence. They don't celebrate it. So the whole thing is just mixed up because of this idea of assimilation. I grew up and had a good knowledge about this. I'm interested in your book. I will read it. I will buy it and I'll read it. So I just want to thank you for bringing this for fighting for this historical monuments. We, the Chika people, the indigenous Chika people, had been the object of segregation by the government, oppression. And that is why the indigenous Chika people are not even known even within the Cameroonian community that well. You'll be surprised. So that the name Chika seems to be so vulgar. I remember when I was writing the bar exam as a Cameroonian, I went for interview. When I said I was a Chika, the president of the Cameroon Bar Association was asking me, be specific. Are you Banso? Are you Bamlike? Are you this? When you say you are Chika, I told him I am an indigenous Chika. All these people you are citing are Chikas by historical origin. And he was asking me, so do you mean that there are people here called Chika? I said, there are Chikas who speak the Chika language. And all these other people you are saying are descendants. Like the Bamuns, the Banso, they are the descendants. We are the natives. And in order to suppress that kingdom, we were divided into 4 regions. The Ngambe Chika, who were attached to the center, the people in Magba who were attached to Nun, those of us in Boplain who are attached to the Kambe, and those in Adamawa, Bankim, where my royal family comes from, were attached to Banyo. It's the same geographic area, people who speak the same language, but divided into 4 provinces. Now, it is because I grew up in the Anglo-Saxon area that I learned about Bimbia and all the slavery and everything that was going on during our elementary school. So there is much to it. And I want to thank you for that eye-opening. And I just want to say that it is really, really, really something that in fact, the history, like the history we are talking about West Cameroon, the Mekiza and all those things like that, it happened during the period when we have the detailed history even more than them, because most of the Bamileke people who were warriors fighting for the total independence of Southern Cameroon at UPC, when they were being massacred, they were escaping and coming to the English region. The national boundary was the Mongo. They couldn't cross there. So the Bamileke have really suffered in the fight for independence, the UPC. That was the party that was leading. And that is how mass massacre went through. Although I've drifted to the historical part of the country, but the fact is, I'm going back to that history of Bimbia. Yes. That the knowledge, my Francophone tribesmen, the Tika, would not also know much about Bimbia as I do, because I had a different educational background.
Yes. Thank you. That is really important to understand and point out, because the educational systems are different and the exposure is different. I'd like to share, I did a Black History Month presentation in New Orleans on last Saturday. And one of the things that I got to share, and for Aubrey and others, I will be also sharing information about the records of two persons of Bamoun ethnicity, whose records I have been able to find. And I was able to take those records back to Sultan Bamba in Joya some years ago. They were of the Bamoun ethnic group, and they were enslaved in Louisiana, where I am from. Those are records that I have been working with, trying to pull as much information as I can possibly find. I have information about the enslavers, and one of person was identified as a Bamoun ethnic group was captured in Bamenda. And these are records from the 1700s, 1800s. So the work continues, and the objective really is to find a way to get this, to build our knowledge and to recover ourselves, because when we are blessed enough, lucky enough to be able to find this deeply buried in the archives, it's our responsibility to also make that information available to the entire community.
Yes, thank you. Before you go, Afro Mix, I had a couple more hands that we didn't get to from before. Sister Nakia and Brother Alton, are you still on? That I remember your two hands were up.
I'm still on, but I have my question in the chat, so you can answer it there. I'm good.
Okay.
If you yeah, can we know what the question is? I can answer it.
Go ahead, Alton. Alton.
I'm here.
Yeah, go ahead and ask your question.
Well, the question was basically, Dr. Aubrey, I did have your book and we've chat and email. So thank you for your diligent work, because it definitely
You're most welcome.
Helped to fill out some answers, especially someone who had a wonderful mother. That's where I traced my lineage back to Dakar from African ancestry. The question, not to belittle the conversation, how can, and she's from Louisiana, and I hear that you're from Louisiana. How can I trace a little further beyond Louisiana because I'm stuck there? I mean,
where in Louisiana is she from?
She's from the Springfield and Livingston area.
Okay. Well, one of the things in Search of Bimbia, you'll be able to find, and because of time, and let me say, I would absolutely love to come back and have a conversation again like we are having today. Brother Alton, if you have a copy of In Search of Bimbia, I tell a story of Dr. Stanley Viltz. I'm just going to read a few things from California, USA, roots in Louisiana. Came to Cameroon on a trip and pilgrimage that I organized. Stanley traced her roots to Tikar. I'm reading it because there's so many similarities to what you've shared. Stanley wanted to leave a legacy for her children. She wanted to find out her village of origin in Cameroon and know where her Tikar ancestors were taken to in the African diaspora. Well, what happened in the search, and I began to help her with the search because she was stuck, like many of us are, and get frustrated. We want to know what Tennessee has to do with Cameroon. Well, Sister Stanley Wilkes had the same question. We found out with the help of my parents and my sister, because really this is a community engaged project. This is oral history is so important. So her ancestors her ancestors were Tikar. They were owned by a family named De Clouet. If you're not Creole speaking, which that's my first language, you come back and you say, I'm looking for the De Clouets. Well, we don't know who the De Clouets are because that's not how we pronounce it. It's De Clouet. So when I told my family in Louisiana, they said, so my parents said, oh yeah, we can help. So they jumped in, my sisters jumped in. We found out that Stanley's Tikar ancestors were taken to a plantation about 5 miles from where I grew up. Her Tikar, and I tell the story in Search of Bimbia. We believe that they toiled as slaves to the De Clouet family and were part of the building crew that built the big house. That plantation is still there. Today it's called the St. John Sugar Plantation. This happened when the plantation was called the Lizima Plantation. The enslavers were from France. If anybody on the call is familiar, they're from a place called Cambrai, Cambrai, France. And they, I'm just going to read here, the plantation was built in 1828. Original owner, Alexandre de Clouet, was a descendant of Chevalier André Alexandre de Clouet of Cambrai, France, who moved to Louisiana in 1758 to become commandant of the Poste de Tacapa in 1774. Then I go on to talk about, we of course get more information about the white enslavers, less information about Stanley's Tikar ancestors. I would suggest that you, if you have an opportunity, you check some church records, get with some communities. We are also recovering the history. If you have birth records, death certificates, know the community they came from. Get engaged with people who speak Creole. They're from the Livingston area, because the English just may not work as well. And begin digging that way. There are a lot of plantations here as well. So some plantation records are also really important. As I mentioned to Brother Elong, also find out who the plantation owners were. in the area. And a lot of times through those records, we can find out information about the enslaved.
Awesome. I appreciate that guidance. Just a little note, my grandfather, who was in World War One, made sure we were at least from Africa. So on his registration card, he put Africa.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes, yes, yes. So I hope
awesome.
that helps. And of course, you and I have talked before by email. Just feel free to contact me. If I don't get right back to you, it doesn't mean I'm ignoring you. It's just I'm gonna get to it. And reminders are good. You can nudge me.
Understood. Oh, just one note. Just to offer my volunteer services since I'm retired. If you need any assistance, and
Oh, thank
please,
you. Thank you, thank
one
you.
person is one person, but as you say, the
Yes.
community is
Yes. This
more
is
hands.
community embedded work. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm making a note. Call out.
So I got nothing but time right now.
All right. Thank you so much.
Awesome,
You're welcome.
awesome.
Thank you.
Afro Mix, and if you could state your name when you come on.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm. Thank you, Lisa. So I'm Arnold calling from Germany at the moment.
Yes.
I had to come on call because Lisa sent this information in a group where we initiated when she made the presentation, the Roots Reconnection
Yes,
presentation in
but
Aachen.
But what is your name, sir?
I just said Arnold.
Arnold. Okay, got it.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. So I came on call and I'm happy that this conversation is going on.
And I'm so happy to see you.
I thank you. And I'm grateful that Lisa is still championing this, and we are very happy that work is going on. In Aachen, we said the work is surely going to outlive us, so we have to put the foundation right for the next generation to carry on this.
Yes.
And the details, like Lisa is saying, is going deeper and deeper, where you can start connecting to individuals, where people can identify this person was from Bamenda, or this person was captured in Bamenda, he's from Cameroon. So those kind of details is actually what we ingrained in the root reconnection details. And I'm happy Lisa is still championing this and driving this forward, even though she's going to other places, not only to Bimbia. She's going to Kenya, she's going to other places. Lastly, root reconnection was in, I think, in 4 Southern African countries.
Yes.
But the network is growing. I wish and I hope that we can, at some point, start creating more of the interaction and providing the necessary database for this kind of connection. Because with the scientific DNA, I would say, technology or findings, I think it is much more important that the current generation have a good database of DNA records to be able to match them. As such, individual participation will definitely go a long way to connect relatives, even though that may be 30, 40 generations back. But it's interesting to know, oh, this is my distant cousin, and this is my my distant relative who happen to be a victim of the enslavement process. In one of the discussions, I think it was in the video that was presented to this, or that was presented with this talk, Lisa mentioned the hard talks. We also appreciate being emotionally mature and strong enough to be able to go into such hard talks. In the chat, there's something that somebody posted. It is difficult to believe that over the time Africans were not involved. I think in the book In Search of Bimbia, that is also mentioned. Africans were involved in. I mean, if you look at Bimbia itself, in the book, they talked about the story of the king of Bimbia, who had issues facing this. So yes, we have to be able to with emotional maturity, have this kind of conversation, even with the, in quote, royal families, and have them have them address their fair share of what transpired back then. And I think that will be an interesting part in the healing and connection process. In that sense, Lisa, I can only commend the work, and we will keep on pushing this and do as much as we can. Currently, we are working on a similar event in Namibia. Lisa, I told you about this.
Yes.
And we will try to drive this forward, because most people don't, just like we're talking, people don't understand. People even don't understand the connection between Namibia and Cameroon.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
there's a deep and big connection between Namibia and Cameroon, which we will be digging that up as well and bringing that forward, because some of those slave ships, they took people not only to the Americas, but they also took people down south. And
yes.
that is also part of this Roots Reconnection lecture series, which Lisa is championing, and I'm very happy that she's going as far as Kenya, Tanzania, where she's going to meet some other brothers from the West, from Cameroon. We were also taken there for slavery, and the history continues. I'm happy that we are doing this, and the work is definitely going to outlive us, but I hope with the bibliographic records that is being collected, we are having a solid foundation for the future generation. Once more, thank you, and thank you for organizing this. I'm very happy. I was so delighted when I saw the invite. I was like, wow, this is going places now, and people are getting to understand what we're talking about 7 years ago. They're digging deep and getting the events organized and trying to push the book launch. And today the things are happening. So we'll be pushing forward, and the book will be presented in every event that we produce to this regard. The books are presented, and we'll happily want to present more books in this direction and more resources, so that the next generations have enough resources to build on and to actually take their own knowledge as far as they can. One thing which Lisa mentioned, which I want to share here, she has not been able to go into that depth, is the far back we go into history, the far better we can look into the future. So that piece of insight is something which Lisa, I also want you to constantly remind people of that, because what we discussed in Aachen was, why is this important today? So people think history is past, but you have to understand that the further back you go to history, the more you can see into the future, and that is manifesting today. The brother just said, Francophones don't know the story of Bimbia because it was not taught in their books. But if they had to go back into their history, they will actually know the connection between what transpired in Cameroon during the transatlantic slavery and what is happening today with the in quotes Anglophone crisis or Amazonian crisis.
Yes.
They are all connected somehow.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you once more, and I'm grateful that I was able to make it to this meeting, and I can only appreciate and say kudos to all those putting their time, effort, resources to drive this forward. The Grassfield reconnection, I don't know how much connection you are to the Grassfield, but we are very happy that this thing is taking the dimension and the drag that is going. So and the drive also, the momentum that is gathering. We are very grateful for this collective effort. I mean, when we had the conversation about organizing some events at the beginning, it was like, who are those going to attend the event?
Yes. So thank you so much, Arnold. Thank you so much. I'd like everybody to know that Arnold with Afro Mix, Afro Wise, who you can find on Facebook, began these conversations. We started years ago with we had book launches in Aachen, Germany. I've actually taken groups to Aachen, Germany. There is a dynamic global African community there. Arnold is one of the leaders. If you're interested in going to Aachen, Germany, please let me know. We have done some incredible work. As a matter of fact, some of the clips that were used to advertise this event, it comes from some of the events that Arnold organized. So thank you so much. I know that it's very late in Germany. Thank you for staying awake. But you make some really important points here, and I'd like to
just before you make the point, just let them know that you went to see King Douala Mangabel's memoriam in Ulm. So
yes,
the connection go that far, and it's interesting to
yes,
understand that history.
yes, I went to Ulm to see the street with the placard to record the change of name to Douala Manga Bell, and that comes from many years of movement of struggle to recognize our history and to acknowledge our narrative about ourselves. Arnold is doing some really amazing work. We'll be going to Namibia. I'm also doing some similar work in Kenya because what we are doing connects Bimbia to so many other places. When I was in Douala, for instance, one of the first times I'm understanding what people are saying. And I said, but how can this be? I've not been to Cameroon. I don't know Douala. What is this? Douala is very similar in some of its structures to Kiswahili. In Douala, you say Dinalamna Lisa. In Swahili, you say Jinalangu Lisa. So I'm following, and then you begin to dig and you begin to see, and this can be a whole conversation, but I'll just be brief, how these enslavement ships really moved us to so many places in the world and so many different parts of Africa. Ever heard people say, no, Obama is really from Cameroon. That's a Cameroonian name. There is something to that. And we are unearthing this history. And as Arno rightly pointed out, so much of this has to do with our healing and repair as global Africa. And to know who you are is the first of all human rights. And that is behind the ontological objective of this work that we are doing. And just to the point that it's hard to believe that Africans were not involved in transatlantic slavery. Well, we can have another very long conversation about this at another time. But the Cameroon, for instance, that we know today was not the Cameroon of the 1700s. The state was not organized the way that it is today. We had different nations. So the Bakweri and the Bamileke, those were two different nations. The Douala, the Tika, those are two different nations. You're not in the same state with the same government. That's a very different group of people. So we can talk about that at another time.
Okay, so we're going to have Boris go, and Boris, if you can kind of make it quick.
I'll make it very quick. Thank you so much. My name is Boris Gifo. I grew up in Cameroon. I was born in Yaoundé, and I was born. I'm about 30 now, so I was very young when I saw you on TV, and I feel like your work has actually.
I was young as well, right?
Yeah, you're still very young. I was in high school, and I want to say you opened a lot of conversations. You helped start a lot of conversations, and things have improved because when I went to school, you actually learn about Bimbia, and I went to the Francophone system. So
Okay.
things have changed. So I don't know if it's because I'm sure you contributed to it for sure. So at least in my school, I had it, or my teacher was maybe willing to share that, but I had it at school. So that's
Oh,
already a
thank you.
good
What
thing.
school did you attend?
I went to a public school called Balade High School. It's
À
close to
Yaoundé.
the Yaoundé, yeah. Lycée de
Uh-huh.
Balade.
Okay, d'accord.
Yeah. So and also you helped start the conversation in my family because my parents and then my mom's cousins, they did some research and found out that our branch was founded by a former slave. So a slave that was Fred. She was on the way to the coast and she managed to be, I don't know, we don't really know the details, but she managed to get freedom and she married one of my grandfather and she's the founder of the family branch.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's so
Yeah,
touching.
yeah.
Yes.
And so we celebrate. So the family, everyone know that people don't know anything about her mom or whatever, but she's the one. When we talk about my family on my mom's side, we always talk about this lady. So she's the one that started the family branch. But we don't know. The sad thing is we have no information about her. Apart from the fact that and we know she came through Bagante, so I was very happy to learn about Bagante, but she was probably not from Bagante per se, and she
Oh,
has got a local name. So, and my family, because of that, they are open now that has started new conversation where they try to connect with the families from the descendants of that lady.
yes.
And I found this very nice. So that's also to say we know a lot about African Americans or for people from the Americas trying to connect to that
Yes.
history back home. But
Yeah.
locally, it's a nascent movement, but there are also a lot of people, I mean, at least my family, my surrounding, trying to
Yes.
connect. And we don't even know where to start because you have no
Yeah.
record. In the case of my
Yes.
grandmother, we just need to rely on family stories and
Yes.
oral
Yes.
traditions.
Yes. Well, Boris, I'm going to ask you to please stay in touch. Please send me an email. This is the work that we do, and I would be so honored if I could try to help with this, with the information that I have, information that I know. I also have, as I mentioned, a student research team, and many of them I think might also be interested in helping. But this is wonderful. And this is one of the major blessings for me is to hear within Cameroon. And this is something that the diaspora doesn't hear often, that Arnold knows about because he's from, because he's from Cameroon. But what is one of the major blessings is that people in Cameroon are having this conversation about their families in Cameroon and are connecting. It's amazing. It's
Thank you.
amazing.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you.
I'll write you an email. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right. So before we have Queen Mother Gotham going, I just have a couple questions myself. One, man, I think I done went through this whole book, man, and have so many, but I'll start with this one. Why do you think, and maybe this is not where all this has been, but the T car, which seems like the biggest group that comes out of African ancestry, like why were they targeted the most in the Bamileke? Because it looks like, and it seems like the day that the T car are smaller than the Bamileke, has that always been, or was it because so many were taken from the T car that they're smaller today?
Well, this actually gets to question that I said maybe we could talk about another time. But it's all of these questions are so important, and I'm going to ask the font is here, Queen Mother is here. our Tikar brother is here. They may also have some input. These are questions that I also ask. To the point that I made earlier is that the government, the states of Cameroon, the country of Cameroon that we see today, is not what existed in 16, 17, 1800s, right? What we have today that is called Cameroon is a colonial configuration that cobbled together groups of people from different ethnic groups and said, we're going to call you Cameroon. To Arnold's point about that connection between Cameroon and Namibia, one of those connections is that Cameroon first was German, was occupied by colonized by the Germans, right? So you have the Kmerun, right? So when Germany loses what they call World War I, we see now Cameroon partitioned between the so-called winners, the Allies, the French, and the British. Still not the Cameroon that we see today, because we see machinations between the French and the British. We see there's a UN vote about who would remain in Cameroon, because we know that was part of Nigeria. There was a part of Cameroon that was considered part. So all of these configurations are what we see as cobbled together as Cameroon today. To the question of why do we see more Tikar, more Bamileke in the DNA diaspora? Well, during the time of transatlantic slavery, that phenomena that exists as Cameroon didn't. Instead, you have the Douala group, you have the Bakwere group, you have different groups of people existing as their own state, right? So, to the question of, I can't believe Africans were not involved, right? One point is that, yes, if the British enslaver came to me and said, I'm going to keep your mother. I gave this example about Prince. I'm going to keep your mother, your sister, they would go to a man. Unless you bring me 300 people tomorrow, right? I'm not collaborating with the British. I'm not collaborating with the enslaver. But who would not get people that they don't know in order to keep their mother, their sister, their children safe? So we might deduct that at Bimbia, where you see the Isubu ethnic group, the Bakwere ethnic groups, they might have said, okay, those Tikars that live in that other country, in Tikar country, I want to keep my family together. So I'm going to go and get 300 people from that country, that foreign country. I don't know those people. So what do? To save themselves at the coast, they get the Tikar, right? Suppose we are at Vuri, the Doualas are there, right? There is a Portuguese ship that comes that says, okay, I want 500 people, right? And the Douala guy says, man, I don't have anything to do with this. They say, oh, yes, you do now, because we got your family here, right? And unless you bring us 500 people, we're taking them, right? So what does this Douala man do? He goes to the Bamileke, who are really at that time, what? A different country. He doesn't know them. So the Doualas, the Bamileke are then taken. And also at the same time, the Doualas are also tricked. Because what happens? The Portuguese enslaver takes the 500 Bamileke, and they take the guy's family, and they take him. Right? In the language Fon, enslavers are called Yoruba. They're called tricky dogs. Tricky dog, right? And it's because no matter if you did what looked like collaboration and brought those 500, they still tricked you and took you as well. So those groups, Tika, Bamileke, they are on the interior. They are called the Grassfields, right? They are called that the area where they are from, that's called the Grassfields. So when I think about how many more people from the grass fields are in the DNA diaspora, and when we think about that process of enslavement, who was tricked, who was taken, that's one of the ways that I think about it. But I also think it's open for a lot more research and interpretation. And I think it's much, much more complicated than soul brothers. They didn't want you there. So no, it's much more complicated than that. So some others on if they want to jump in, and people from Cameroon who may have more insight, may have other insight.
Yes, I just want to concur with what you said. It's so pertinent. And you discover that with the case of the Tika, for example, when you go to the indigenous kingdoms, because these people were resistant, they resisted the Germans, they resisted these people, their voices were not heard. Mm-hmm. And that explains why you find young kingdoms that just were birthed from the Tika. Some of them have very fanciful palaces, like the Sultan's Palace. The question is, how did he build that wealth? Mm-hmm. Because you find most of those indigenous palaces, the people are not that rich because they were not ready to trade their people. Mm-hmm. Yes. So there was external pressure that was being mounted on them, and the people were being seized and taken away. And that's why you find them today like that. Mm-hmm. As Dr. Lisa said, there are many factors. This would just be one of the factors. But the fact is, any traditional ruler who resisted slavery was not only impoverished, some of his people taken, but they were left in a very destitute situation and weakened in such a way that they could not even command any traditional powers again. They were ripped of it. And that explained the splitting of the Tika Fundum into the 4 areas, even with the arrival of after the conquest of the Germans, and then they were about to establish the French Republic. They couldn't even give them one administrative unit so that they would be powerful. They had to carve them into small administrative units and attach them to different regions to weaken them and divide them further, because they were resisting, and therefore they became the prey for most of this export.
Yes.
So I think another part of my question to that would be, you know, we understand, or now I understand more, that it just wasn't everyone who was taken, right? And a lot of times they were taken for certain skills that they had to go to certain places. And unless I'm wrong, right? It could be, hey, we just need people. But I know sometimes, like when you talk about some of them that went to Virginia and South Carolina, it was because they knew rice, or they knew how to cultivate the rice, or, you know, the indigo when you look at, you know, in Georgia. So I was asking also from that point also, like, was it a skill, or was it just people that they were looking for?
Most of the time it was the physique, because it was meant for hard work. Just giants, those are the type of people they want to pick up. It is true, in some cases, they may find some people who are doing some works of arts like bronze and things like that. And then they could say they would take them so that they could go and then continue with the work. But you hardly find most of those cases. It is true. Some of them was because of their artistic work and things like that. But I think for those they were targeting for plantation, it was question of physique.
Yeah, and there's a last theory I've heard is regarding the weather. If you go to the grassfield area in Cameroon, it can be very chilly. So sometimes the slave traders, they wanted, because they want the slaves to survive. So if the plantation is located in a place that's also chilly, so usually Virginia could be cold, sometimes places like that, they will go to places in Africa where the weather can be a bit similar and favor the slave from that area to bring them to places in the Americas that have similar weather.
Hey, Boris, tonight. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. Aubrey.
Go ahead.
Boris and I were fortunate enough to go to Cameroon together a few years ago. And Boris, what was the name of that where we went, where there was a trading post?
Bangu. We went to the former slave market. Yeah.
Thank you, brother.
Yes. I think that all of those factors that we mentioned, they're all partial factors. And I think we have to look at those factors against the enslavers, the countries that they were from, whether or not this was state sanctioned, whether or not this was private. We have to look at the commercial ventures. Some of the commercial ventures, when we are lucky enough to find the document, say, this is what I'm doing. I'm taking the ship to the Cameroon territory. I'm taking it to Gambia. I'm taking it for this particular reason. We have to look at the period of time. We have to look at that. There's so many factors to consider. If you look at In Search of Bimbia, Appendix O on page 228, there's a letter, and I put this in here because this is particularly important. This is a letter here written in 1778. Is from Captain Peter Potter to William Davenport. And he's explaining to Davenport, I know you sent me here to capture X number of people, but this is what happened. And this number died. He says, let me see if I can read this. On my arrival here, I found Captain Small with about 60 slaves on board. Captain Richardson left the river 8 days before I arrived with 250 slaves, 7,800 pounds of ivory. Captain Hurst is not yet arrived. So they also give details. And now this is a commercial venture on so many levels, right? Because the captain goes out because there's a venture capitalist crew that wants the enslaved and they want to move them someplace. They want to move them to St. Croix. They want to move them to Barbados, right? And then and these captains are also figuring, I'm going to get this amount of money, right, from this number of people that I can capture and keep alive until I get them to the destination that the venture, that this capitalist, this enslaving venture wants me to do, right? So sometimes numbers are more important than skill, right? You understand? Because this captain is thinking about, well, yeah, I'm going to make this amount of money. I'm going to make this amount of money. So there are a number of factors operating at the same time, right? So the enslaved, the owners have their objective, their number of people. The captain has their objective, the number of people. And remember, insurance companies are also involved. In the Cameroon case, there are also instances of murder at the high sea because they have decided that they're going to make less money by the sale of those who survive, the enslaved who survive. They're going to make less money than if they throw them overboard. So that's not only a story about the zone, that's also a history of what happened from the Cameroon territory as well. So there are we have to think very broadly when we think about the numbers that survived, because there's so many interests, and not all of them are converging interests. Some of them also are competing interests at the same time.
Wow. That, man.
Yeah,
you're right.
In
Yeah, we needed to have that. But before you go, we want to have Queen Mother and Gossam because she's been waiting. Wow. Go ahead, Queen Mother and Gossam.
Thank you. This is I'm not easily impressed, but dear sister, you have done your work. And first, one of my questions is, what made you go into this? I know you say you're a history major. What made you want to look at Cameroon? What happened? Because I'm so honored. I'm so honored that somebody is talking about this. That's why when I saw you years ago, the video was it wasn't even, I don't know, maybe that was your first public thing. It wasn't that clear. I was glued to my phone. I'm like, what? In Cameroon? And you seem so passionate. I don't really know how I felt at that time. It's been over 20 years. But today, after going through my own journey, this is an art that has to be commended for your interest. And you speaking from a standpoint as a researcher myself, I know what it is. You have evidence to back what you're saying up. And I really, really appreciate it. And I'm just curious, what made you want to take up this work?
Thank you. I know that person of African descent in the African diaspora, we are always searching and trying to fill that void that exists. We all want to know where we come from. We all want to know where we belong and who we belong to. I think a lot of times we think that the decisions that we make are just our decisions on our own. But no, for me, this is it's a mission, it's a passion, it's a blessing, it's an assignment from the ancestors. This is work that I absolutely must do. not only for me, but for all of us. And I've been blessed to live more than half of my life in Africa. I mentioned the many countries. I lived in Ghana for 10 years, lived in Kenya over 3 years, lived in many other African countries. And I had never been to Cameroon because Cameroon has not been that open country, inviting people to come. But I know that all of those other experiences really prepared me for the work that I have to do in Cameroon, and I continue to learn and to grow. So it's my interest, it's my academic interest, it's my personal interest, it's my passion, and it's also my assignment.
Thank you. Thank you so much, because I've been in the United States longer than I've been in Cameroon. I've literally grew up here, and it's with time and actually my eyes being open to what is going on around the world, because in Cameroon we're very close-minded, and especially, and then the Western religion, you're just taught to pray and God gonna come and the Savior gonna come, and and that's another conversation altogether. But gradually, over the decade, I say, oh my goodness, why isn't Cameroon on the map? I lived briefly in the Middle East, and I found out, just as I'm in awe of the things that I'm learning from you today, I found out, my husband had mentioned it to me, and I thought he was just saying it. I found out from a government person in the social setting, and he asked my husband, he said, oh, I hear you're from Cameroon. And they were chatting. I was sitting in the background. He said, yeah, little Cameroon that have more oil than Saudi Arabia, but nobody's talking about it. And I'm like, what? This was coming out of somebody's mouth. And when we were driving back, my husband said, you always say I'm lying when I'm telling you stuff about Cameroon, because you're just so, they have brainwashed you and your father and missionaries, and you don't, I came on board with the connection in 2021. This is very informative and educational. The thing that you're saying, I never knew that the slave, the local chief who sold the slave, it was in school. What we learned was that they were bringing mirror, sugar, alcohol, and cheap jewelries and giving it to the chief, and the chief were just selling the slave. This is the history that I learned. And I've never heard the side that they would blackmail you and take. I mean, this gives me really ammunition, because when people say African themselves, they sold their own people. African, this is the first time over half a century of living that I'm hearing this side of the story. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome.
And my other comment to Brother Arnold, I believe it's Arnold that was speaking. He said Afro mix, I think. And our host was asking him, what's your name? What's your name? And he said Arnold. And I was just taken aback, because a lot of us, most of us, I'm sure, would call ourselves Pan-Africanists. But before, I thought to be a Pan-Africanist, you need to be a scholar, but after being involved in some cultural organization in the last few years, my eyes got open, and I believe that if we're here, it's because we're all cultural ambassadors. Yes. With that being said, what I'm trying to tell Brother Arnold is an enslaved name. This is not the setting that we should still, if we have a lot of our brothers and sisters have taken that step to get names. If you have that name, that identifier, please use it. Because when he said that, And I was just like unsettled because it's like, I want to know where which area, because I'm always curious how we're dispersed around the world. And in the conversation, he mentioned Namibia, and I'm assuming, and I don't want to be assuming because I was amazed to see. I went in the far part of the world, somewhere deep in the Middle East. Everywhere we go, my husband would say, "Oh, we're going to a Nigerian party." I'm like, "What?" Black people are here. You go everywhere you see. And I would meet people from places, even in Africa, I've never known existed. And there were Black people. So what you're doing here, oh my goodness, I don't know if I could give you a crown. I'm sure they have already given you a crown you over there somewhere. If not, I would love to take you to Bangante and have somebody give you a crown, because
I love Bangante.
I'm just so moved and so emotional to hear everything. And like I say, I'm not easily impressed. I am very, very, very impressed by your knowledge and by your passion to what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Abo.
Abota. Where? Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
If I want to add something to what Mamanga Sam said, I'm just gonna say thank you a lot, Dr. Aubrey, for the work you're doing. I myself, I learned a lot. The first time I've heard of the name Bimbia was from your book. Even though my mom was born in Limbe, which is just like about 7 to 8 kilometers to Bimbia. But I've never heard of Bimbia, and then when I went through the book, I was like, so all these things just happened next door. And even from Bimbia to Douala, it's not even far, it's very, very, very close. So my question is, I've saw a lot of your video which I was watching, and I came across a video where you were speaking about Grenada, the link between Cameroon and Grenada, and then I also was able to watch reveal where people from the Grenadian descent was finding their root in Cameroon.
Yes.
And what was that link established? I mean, what?
Oh, thank you. Thank you for asking me this. And I know we'll have to do it again because there's so much to say on all of these issues. Just to go back to Queen Mother for a moment, Bimbia is also part of, during the period of transatlantic slavery, Bimbia was part of what was called the oil states. So this is very interesting when you look at this. Parts of Nigeria and Bimbia and Cameroon is also part of the oil states. So that's also interesting because of the attraction of the Europeans to oil states in Africa. So yes, so you hit on something really important there. The connection between Cameroon and Grenada in the Caribbean is that the majority of the enslavement ships that I have been able to find the disembarkations, and we don't have disembarkations for all of them, but when you look at this, you have I don't know if you all can see it, the name of the ship, and then the disembarkations are here. This is in Bimbia de Voilé. This is Bimbia Unveiled, and here, In Search of Bimbia, when you look at the disembarkations, most of the ships disembarked in Grenada. We have over, at last count, I think there were 28. To Audrey's questions, there are more disembarkations that I've been able to find in Jamaica, more in Barbados, but Grenada has the largest number of disembarkations. When you look at Grenada, Grenada is a country of less than 1 million people. So if you have that many ships with hundreds of people being disembarked in Grenada, it makes you wonder if a significant number, or maybe even the majority of people from Grenada are of Cameroon descent. This is a question that I have asked. My daughter and I went on a research trip to Grenada to try to work in the archives to see what we can find. What we did find is that the archives are not in Grenada because of, you all remember Maurice Bishop?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the U.S. government removing Maurice Bishop from, removing him from power, removing him. So I was told that what also was taken from Grenada was the archives. So I was told, okay, well, you need to go back to the U.S. and see if you can find the archives there. And if you find them, please share them with us. So that is the connection, Brother Malcolm. The connection is also because some of our revered leaders in the U.S. are of Grenadian descent. If they are of Grenadian descent, maybe they are of Cameroonian descent. Anybody know what leader I'm talking about here? Well, Malcolm X's mother is from Grenada. So that has been a question of mine, the ancestry of Malcolm through his mother's line. But I think we have a strong case that we can make that the significant number of people from Grenada are of Cameroonian descent. I believe that as I find more of the disembarkations of the enslavement ships, I believe that more will turn up Grenada as well.
Okay.
So the history, not sure who said it, but it's so on point. It was Arnold, that history is not just the past, it's the reality that we live in today. Reality that we live in today. And when we look at that beautiful, forceful, cultural, political, that enterprising DNA diaspora of Cameroon, it is amazing. And really shows us how Cameroon is truly Africa in miniature. It truly is.
Mm-hmm.
Could I ask a question here right quick? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. Go ahead.
Could somebody tell me where Grenada is? Grenada anywhere close to Vietnam and Vietnam territory? And the reason I'm asking that question is because I have Cameroonian roots, and Brother Malcolm and I are related. But I don't show myself to be what tribe I come from. I'm coming more from the Yoruba people and out of Burkina Faso people. And then when you brought that up, because I have a match, it's on my DNA chart, showing me that there is a Vietnamese who is a fourth cousin to me, and his name is Hu Chu. And you're making me wonder if that's somewhere maybe where there could be Cameroonian roots there that may have a tie with me and Brother Malcolm. I don't know.
Grenada is in the Caribbean.
Say it again.
Grenada is in the Caribbean. The
Caribbean? Okay.
Lesser Antilles in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
jump in and continue. So, Sister Lisa, it was some time ago I wanted to say this. You said two things, and the chill went to my spine. Because when you talked about the kings, the Cameroonian leaders getting involved with the slave traders, it goes back, which is a history I not specific, or not Cameroon, but we learned that in Jamaica for the other Ghana, Nigeria, which is where they tend to focus. But that description describes what happened to the boobies. That one of the Douala king, of the Akwa Douala king, with the Spanish leader, kidnapped a whole group of young people during their fertility festival in the 1820s. Loaded them on ship and sailed straight to the West Indies. When you talked about the death and whatever, the Middle Passage, it reminded me of the Gong, the slave ship by the name of not Gong, Zong.
Zong, yeah, Z-O-N-G.
Yes, 1381, I think it was, where they claimed that drinking water was running low, and they threw the living slave Africans overboard because the insurance that they would have gotten for them being dead was more than selling them in the West Indies.
Yes.
So, oh boy.
Yes. And it's connected to Jamaica through Black River.
You know, my mother's maternal line is in Black River, St. Elizabeth.
Ah, yes.
Okay. That's where I found. I've gone as far as she was born late 1822. Yes. No, sorry, 1824. She was registered as 8 months. The question I have is, and it pertains to Jamaica, because Jamaicans will tell you that they're from Ghana and Nigeria. No, most of them, Ghana. And I know I love Ghana too. And I've cousins in Ghana from my mother's paternal side. And that's where I really, if I should go to Africa right now, I'll go to them as a home. So far, wonderful people. But Cameroon, as I said, in my studies that I did up to my master's degree in history in Jamaica, Cameroon was not really mentioned. Bioko Island, Fernando Po was mentioned.
Yes.
When it was first seen by Fernando Po, and then they moved on to the rest. So when do you plan to go to Jamaica? Your radio television interview, the fact that yes, a lot of us were taken from Cameroon to Jamaica, and we are actually descendants of the enslaved Africans from Cameroon who were taken. Because also with African ancestry, I think Dr. Page, Gina, many times she has said I think most of the testes are from the Bubi Tika Fulani Hausa from Cameroon. From the DNA test, their roots, the females, and it's female, which also supports the story of them kidnapping the females during the fertility festival in the 1820s.
Well, I thank you for that. To the brother who is related to Malcolm, this may help. The Grenada is near St. Vincent and also Trinidad. So if that helps you, because sometimes people confuse this Grenada with the Grenada of Spain. But we're talking about, as Audrey said, Grenada in the Caribbean, closest to St. Vincent and Trinidad. And Audrey, thanks for that question. Yes, I have been to Jamaica a few times asking these questions, but as Boris and others pointed out, maybe now is more of the time to ask those questions. I was asking those questions around 2011, 2012, and maybe there was not as much of an openness really to discuss. But I would love to go back and to ask those kinds of questions because, for instance, you all may have seen that Cheryl Lee Ralph, who is also Jamaican, who I got just a blessing to spend time with her. She is also linked to the Tika of Cameroon. So I think bringing Cameroon into the conversation as it deservedly should be in the conversation gets Jamaicans to think more broadly outside of Nigeria and Ghana. Also, what is very interesting, and I don't know that I make it, well, I should just say in the next book, I'll make it even more clearer, but Joseph Merrick and John Joseph Fuller,
yes,
of African descent in Jamaica, left Jamaica at independence and made their way to Bimbia, made their way to Cameroon. And that is very, very significant, very, very important. That connection between, not only between Grenada and Cameroon, but also Jamaica and Cameroon is very significant. And we need much more research. We need a lot of digging. There is so much to unearth. And they passed through. Go ahead.
They went to the first stop on Bioko Island.
Yes.
When they were sort of expelled, they left from Bioko Island to Cameroon.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I do remember one of the story where their job was actually wrongly attributed to Afro-Seeker because they actually brought, what they did was attributed to Afro-Seeker, and it wasn't actually Afro-Seeker who did what they did, yeah.
Yes, and I try to make that clear in the book. I have a couple of videos. What is accredited to Alfred Seeker in Cameroon? And you just see Seeker everywhere. And you think this is the work of Merrick and Fuller. This is their work. This is their work. This is why we have to flip the script and write our narrative.
An easy way
was a ship hand.
Oh. An easy way to do it is to send the books to the television station, the morning program.
Yeah.
Send the book to the morning program, a copy for each, and then they, with an invitation to do the talk show in the morning program, and on CTV or TV. I probably will. I probably will send you a message you with the thing. Okay, so we send the book and then they'll brief it and then they'll invite you for a few minutes. So you talk about the work, and usually after that happens, then others want you to come and speak on various platforms. Going to the university probably a bit harder. But start with the morning program, and from there you will see that it will mushroom. That's what I did with my books when I've not done the last book as yet because then Melissa came.
Yes.
Actually, Brother Moncam have a direct connection with somebody who's high position in CRTV. You can, I mean, that would, because I don't know if you send it just like that and you don't, nobody, there may be, there may be some reserve because, but if you go through a connection, because in Cameroon it's all about connection, who you know. Brother Moncam has somebody who is, I don't know, but my experience as a Cameroonian, you have to know somebody. I mean, so I had an opportunity to be there multiple times because, and actually, they seek me out after that first time because Brother Monkam put me in touch with the right person.
I have my sister hand deliver the book because I have sisters in Jamaica. So when so I send the books down to my relatives and they hand deliver it to someone at the TV station. Actually, when I lived there, before when I did my 2 poetry books, I just mailed them. But the
in Jamaica or in Cameroon?
Deliver the books to them.
In Jamaica or in Cameroon?
In Jamaica.
Oh, I thought you meant Cameroon. Okay.
No, I'm no connection in Cameroon. Yeah. So close.
Not yet. Not yet.
Now you do. Now you do.
But Arnold had his hand up for a while. Let's get Arnold in, and then we'll let Dr. Aubrey wrap it up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. I wanted to comment and react to the questions which to some extent were addressed to me directly or indirectly. One, my origin, my origin. Sometimes I sit back and listen to people speak and I hear them because I am originally from Batela and I speak English, and people like they're wondering where is he from. So I just like, okay, let's listen carefully. Yeah, so I think that explains why I could tell I could tell my sister Abu. The connection between Grenada, Malcolm, and Cameroon. I think most people are aware of the celebrity DNA test that are significantly manifesting to show Cameroon, and the discussion around why Tika and why are there so many people from Tika and the Bamileke region. I think one, it is important to always contextualize this discussion. Lisa mentioned it, but I don't think it has synced or it is syncing properly. The country called Cameroon today was non-existent during those periods. And the Tika country in its own right was relatively vast. Just like we're talking about Bimbia, and there's a question here that is asking, is Akwa Ibom, was Akwa Ibom part of Cameroon? Indeed, the coastal region is also related in a whole sense. So the Isubu people in Bimbia, they are family related to the Douala people in Douala, in the Vuri, along the Vuri creeks, as well as they are related to people as far back or moving far inward along the west coast, right through to Lagos. So they are, in a sense, part of the larger Yoruba nation. As such, if you want to look at it from today's geopolitics, you always have to contextualize it to geopolitics in the 1700s and 1800s.
Yes.
Understand why is this happening? So that takes us back to the question which was addressed regarding the slave market in Bangu. So when people do go to that slave market, they read it from the Eurocentric perspective. As somebody who understands his heritage in Batela and who has a deeper connection to the region, it is important to understand that the enslavement process as to what transpired during the trans-Saharan slavery, which preceded the transatlantic slavery, is something that has plagued that region for, it's going now to millennia. So we're talking about 1,000-year history. Very few families can actually trace their history that far back. My own family is able to do that, and it's sometimes difficult for people to understand. But how come you speak English, not French? But I don't talk about that much. But we understand what's happening, and it is important to really contextualize that geopolitics and understand why, and more or less rethink the slave market people go and see in Bangu, from the idea of people were selling slaves to the enslavement process in its sense, which the enslavement process going from raiding people to or raiding families, raiding events, just like the sister mentioned. You have the menstrual events where people are going to do their ceremonies, and then they got to be raided, and the females were more victim in that process, and they will end up in the coast, or end up in enslavement ships or enslavement processes. So those details are something which it is important. I mean, I'm talking in terms of aspects which I think experts like Lisa and other anthropologists doing that field work and research work, that detail work, would definitely use as cues to actually go deeper into understanding what are we contextualizing when we look at the slave markets. Are we talking about slavery, enslavement, or enslavement process as it is conceived and perceived or documented in the transatlantic and trans-Saharan slave enslavement processes or businesses? Or are we looking at the aspect of people who are vulnerable being more or less used or being handed over to families or dynasties who are in the process of socializing, have the freedom to move along social, you call it social status or social stratus in life. So if you want to take an example, in Bangante, there is a king who had a wife who was in quotes from the slave market, and who gave birth to the next king of Bangante. But that history, that detailed part of the history, is something which needs to be dug up and brought into the limelight to understand to differentiate and pull out the nuances between who is writing which history and how that history is being written. And that's why sometimes I say it's not all books that is written that I read. I first of all have to check what am I reading and why am I reading that book. Yes, then the aspect of the DNA test. The question regarding how can, there was a question here, how can one test, what was that? How can I see if we are DNA related to the people she's speaking about? I think most DNA test centers, they have, well, they collaborate among the different DNA test centers. So they have more or less a broader database of data to map the various tribal groups. But as I mentioned in my first intervention, it is important and interesting to go now at the individual level for the future and the present generation, where my DNA will be documented as me from this dynasty, and people can now relate to me and know, okay, you are from this, I'm talking to this particular lineage of people. Just like the brother was saying, they can trace back their history to his grandmother, and that is the end of it. So all that people face in the Americas, people also face them in Africa. So it's not just a matter of those who survived the Ma'afa, the passage, but also those who survived it on the continent. They also have limitations. Just like I mentioned, there are very few dynasties that are able to document 600 years of their own history, of their own family history, or beyond. So it's really, I think it's something which we constantly have to pull the necessary data together, work with anthropologists and historians to put the records straight, and then go through the various ceremonies and if necessary rituals to actually know what is what and who is who. So again, this population of Tika and Bamileke people, it's also important to understand that the terminology Bamileke is something which is new in terms of historical records. In other words, it was non-existent before in the 1700s. So that term Bamileke was non-existent. As such, it is interesting to understand that because of the current DNA database and because of the different tribes, it is easy to say, okay, they are Bamilekes, or they are, so for example, people will talk about the Bamilekes, but referring to the French-speaking grassfield people south of the Nun River. And they will not look at the English-speaking people who were in the Northwest as Bamilekes. They won't call them Bamilekes. But when you do their DNA test, they are related people, just like the Tika people. And the brother was talking about the descendants or the descending tribes or dynasties from the Tika dynasty that migrated south and so on. So that connection should always be contextualized in terms of the timing as well as the language that was used during that period. It's important to always do that contextualization. Just to kudos to Lisa. Patrice extends his regards. Patrice Nganang, he extended his regard. He's currently doing his book launch on Scaleboy, and he mentioned a couple of these things also in that publication.
I saw it advertised. It's at Stony Brook.
Yes.
He was just here in Pittsburgh. I didn't get to go, but he was just here in Pittsburgh with the Bamileke community here.
All right.
Can I double check something with Arnold? You say you're from Batala?
Yeah.
Hey, you're my brother, and oh my goodness, and we're sitting here speaking the white man language. Excuse me, but you were from Batala. Oh my goodness. I was just there. Yeah, this is my brother. This is my wow. We're from that same lineage.
That's why they call this ReConnected
So I'm not your brother anymore, Mamanga Sam.
I thought he was from Namibia.
The family connection is big, and the family goes to America's Caribbean and Kenya. It's big. It's bigger than we can talk about it. So it's okay.
I would love to connect because I'm thinking of doing some social awareness thing and going to see the king. So to have some doors open, but it seems like you are well entrenched over there. I have to connect with you if you can send me your number.
Yeah, I can. I can send you a message.
Okay, thank you.
We'll talk about that offline. I think this is not the right platform.
Yes, no. Yes, after.
Absolutely. I think Brother Malcolm can connect you too.
Okay.
But to one of the things you were saying, Arnold, one of the things me and Brother Malcolm are doing since, me and him have been together for the last year. We just celebrated some milestones. And, through this whole process, and I think why it's so important that all this is happening is, my whole thing when I found out I was from Cameroon and Bamileke and understanding that the ancestors had put people of Bamileke heritage here in Pittsburgh. That's how we got Fo and Bimte, Dr. Gomwell here on the phone. And I think that's for everyone here. We are here because our ancestors picked us out of all of our family members, right? We were the ones who were chosen to be here to take the test, to learn more about who we are. And the fact that all of us are here today is an ancestral calling. But with that being said, Brother Arnold was talking about how we need to really understand down to that family level in Africa. So, when I first learned about, and it was through Brother Tani, who was on here, who's a traditionalist in the Kungang. He was like, I see some things in you. You have some indexes. And so we went to the ComC. And what really makes it kind of even more solidified is in Dr. Aubrey's book. She talked about Misha. And this is a sister who learned about her roots, and I don't remember which lineage she was from. But when she went, she was excited. She went back and said, "Yes, I'm coming home." And the elders were like, "Wait a minute. You say that, but we have to do what we have to do. We have to go into our science bag and learn who you really are."
Yeah.
And I just believe that was the equivalent to the Kamsi and the Bamaleke, right? Those who can
absolutely
go back in time and say, this is who you are and where you're from. And so that was done with me, is where I learned that I was a prince and all these other things. And Bongu is is where that person was taken. I remember them saying Bongu, and all these other things. So my thing is, okay, if we know this and they're still doing research to get the exact village. Um, and so what I'm doing is I've gotten, or I'm going to get 10 ancestry tests. So when I go over there, one of the things when they did this, and this was back last year, was like, yes, you can find out, you can test people and we can find out exactly. I didn't think about much of it then, but now it's like on my heart to say, if we get some ancestry tests and go back and test and find out the exact people, then all this that African ancestry has been doing, what Dr. Aubrey was be doing, and bring the science of our Kamses back, man, my whole thing is when I got started, it was more on the spiritual side. And I was always, to every king that I've talked to, is like, how do we bring this information back? So when Fo and Bente or Dr. Gamo was talking, I shared with him, like, your sons have been here all their lives. They have never been back to get what they were supposed to get from our on the ancestral side. So even if they were to take over for him being the king, they wouldn't know nothing. They've never been there. And I said, why can't we bring that science here so that we can start teaching our young people who they truly are? We have kids here who are experiencing some things ancestrally that they can't explain, and there's no one here to guide them. So what happens? They're taken to the church to be exercised, or they're taken to the crazy house, and there's no one here to really help them. And especially when they're taken to the crazy house, so-called crazy house, they're being studied by all these other people to learn our science that they say is crazy.
Or they're taken to prison, and
yes.
that's really important. We have to point that out.
Where they're studied too, right?
Yes.
Like they're taking our spiritual science of learning how to go back in time and do all these things, and we're left out here, and our children are called crazy and all that. So my thing is, how do we begin to import that here so that our children here, whether they're Bamaleki, African American, or whatever, can start understanding who they are, and we can turn this thing around. But we're not going to turn it around if everyone has to go back to Africa, because most of us aren't going to make it back because of time or expenses or the political stuff that's going over there now. So, my whole thing is, how do we get this science and bring it back? The science of going back in time, where we have the so-called prophets, or we have the healers who already have the science in their DNA. It just has to be open. So, Brother Arnold, yes, I'm right there with you, and I'm gonna do my small part in making all this happen. So, yes. So, Dr. Elong.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I won't be long at all. You just said something that almost made me cry, man. We have all been at this work for a long time. And I do think that I was chosen by my ancestor to do this work. And I think part of what we can do, in addition to what we're doing now, to have these conversations, is having pointed conversations on what to do with this information. For example, part of what I do as a consultant is curriculum development. And so if we put together a set of curricula to help African American families take the steps that we've taken, have it be spiritually guided with some of the things we've learned from the continent, from the people on the continent, and throughout the diaspora. But we find a way to sort of package a step-by-step process for people to learn about who they are and to connect these dots in a way, I think would be a really good thing to do.
Absolutely, brother. And that's what we're working on. So definitely bring you along in that. Brother Tarif, you talked about the COMC. Brother Malcolm can guide you in that. And for those of you who don't know, the COMC is a spiritual person. One of so let's call it a prophet, as you know, has happened to me many times when I was in the church. They have a lot more spiritual power than that, but one of the powers they have is that they can go back in time. And they will always tell you that there is no such thing as past, present, and future. There's only the present. And they can go and see where you've come from because everything is in your DNA. And they will go through the mother's line. There's a reason why there's an umbilical cord, and it's a whole nother science that I'm not qualified to really give justice to. But there is, if you wanted to know where you came from, there is a way to do that. And it's not hard, as the brother always says to me. Like, it's not hard. It's not voodoo or hoodoo. It's just science that we have been kept from. And we have to get our science back. Because I believe even in the book when she talked about Bimbia and the brother was on the boat and trying to find Bimbia, it wasn't until he went to the elders.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the elders released Bimbia.
Yeah.
I believe it was
Yes.
hidden in plain sight, right? And they said, why are they asking? And then they had to go consult. And they said, okay, now you can go to it, right? It was right there when he was the boat riding back and forth on it. Like, I can't see it. It wasn't because it didn't have roads, it's because I believe it wasn't supposed to be seen and you couldn't see it.
Yes.
That was one of I had all these little questions on there about all these little things, but yes. Now that we've got back to that. Yes, but go ahead. You guys say something.
If I can just jump in, along with the COMC on International Women's Day, there's also Ngisi.
Okay.
COMC, it refers to the masculine, that energy, and then the Ngisi refers to the woman. And thank you for bringing that. And I like your comparison between when I talked about this in the book, I talked about the Mbombak. And those of you from Cameroon will know that's in the Bassa.
In the Bassa,
Bassa tradition, Mbombak. So with Mbombak, and they have their, and I'm really wanted to tell this history, this story, because we have our sciences in Africa. We have our sciences. It is time for us to tell our own story, show our own narrative, write our own narrative using our own sciences. And Bombach said, okay, you brought your Western paperwork. Now we're going to do our own science and tell you if you come from us and tell you more. And then we find in the Bamileke tradition, like the Mbombok, there's also Kamsi and Ngisi. And also in Isubu tradition, in Douala tradition, there's also the science. And one of the things, I'm so glad that Boris was on the call to talk about what is happening in Cameroon. What's also happening, we see that there's a revival of us valuing our sciences and talking about them. Working with my students as well, working with the fonds, some fonds, Bamenjinda, Batufam, other areas, also talking to those leaders in in Yaoundé, in the Iwando, Eton areas. Those our sciences are valuable. They've worked for us. They're the reasons that we have survived. So it's time for us to really celebrate our knowledges and our sciences and our sovereignty.
Yes, yes, yes. All right, good people. Is there anyone that has anything else? Because I know we will have Dr. Aubrey here tied up all night, and we don't want to do that. We want to respect her time. So if anyone has any...
And if you heard the phone ringing, it's my parents.
Which is a
my
blessing.
mom and my dad calling me.
Please, guys, make sure that if you want, you get the book, and then we're gonna have Dr. Aubrey back again. So
I would be so happy.
We can develop the book. You know, you guys can have more question and a lot of things in the books. Yeah.
What is your email? What is your email address?
What's your email address?
I can share it here if it's okay with Dr. Aubrey.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay, cool. I'll share it.
Yeah.
And so the connection.
Yeah, so we still have a couple books, and so once you go to the link and order the book, I'll send it out the next day. I only have a few of them left, and then you can get the rest from Dr. Aubrey. And I'm just sharing that because, you know, she's out of the country, and she just asked me to share it while she was out of the country. So I do have a couple books on that. It is at a discount.
I can send you more.
Okay.
Send you more.
Where are you now?
Right now, I am in Louisiana.
Oh, I thought you said out of the country.
No, well, I'm out. I'm gone quite a bit.
Okay.
Most recently, I was, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, I was in Canary Islands, Ile de Canaria for the French speakers, à côté Morocco. One of the things I was doing is tracing the route of the enslavement ships. Ile de Canaria also has a close connection to Cameroon. Was also, as I found out, one of the places where it was the pilot area for plantation capitalism for the enslaved. Also, one of my ancestors on my mother's side traces back to Ile de Canaria, to the Wanche people of the area. So there's also a very close connection there. But Cameroon, Bimbia is really an apertura. It has really opened doors for us to ask questions around the continent. There's so many connections. And also, if I might say, I am taking a group to Kenya. I've already talked with Audrey, a couple of people about this, on a pilgrimage. Will be very much like a pilgrimage to Bimbia. And we will be looking at we'll be looking at trans-Saharan slavery. More than transatlantic because of Kenya's positioning on the world map. And we know that Cameroon was victim to both transatlantic and trans-Saharan slavery. So Cameroon also figures into that discussion. But the pilgrimage is July 19th through the 1st of August. So if anyone is interested, we still have a few spaces.
Dr. Elon, I would love your contact. Brother Monkam, that's another contact that I would love if, because you mentioned that your curriculum consultant.
Yes, I am.
And that's my field. And yeah, I would just like to pick your brain and just chat with you a little bit.
I'm putting my email and number in the chat. It's my pleasure.
Sure,
okay,
I can share the phone number. Dr.
And
Aubrey,
Arno too. And Arno, I need an Arno number too.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll contact you. No worries.
Okay.
I can't find your email address, Dr. Aubrey. If you can share it on the chat. I know that you said.
I kept looking for it.
Go ahead. Please put the email address I gave you earlier.
I can't find it.
I feel
okay. On the
WhatsApp.
All right.
So
the email address, Lisa, your email address is supposed to be on that flyer, I think. I think it's on the flyer you sent. Let me just check.
Yeah, but while you're doing that, Dr. Pamela, you want to have a quick question, and then we'll let Dr. Aubrey go.
Thank you. First of all, I want to tell everybody on the panel that spoke today, thank you. And Dr. Aubrey, I so respect everything all your wisdom, all the knowledge that you poured out today. I'm so grateful for it. I'm so thankful for all of it. You spoke that you were in Louisiana. Will you be in Louisiana in June?
In June, I will be in France. I do work with the commémoration de abolition de l'esclavage, and former minister Christian Taubira Law. So in May, I will be there. Beginning of June, I will be there. So it depends on the date.
Because I will be in Louisiana in June, in Richwood and Monroe, Louisiana in June. Yeah.
You know, we call that the other Louisiana, but that's another conversation, because like Cameroon, that part of Louisiana is more English speaking, and we are Creole speaking.
Exactly. My dad was born and raised in Louisiana, so most of my family came out of Louisiana, so I get it.
Yeah. So please, send me an email. Oh, I'm writing the wrong. Send me an email, and yes, let's talk. We can see
Absolutely.
what's all right. Thank you.
So before we go, I'm going to introduce Dr. Morgan Dafinis. So he's a brother from Saint Lucia. Got to arrived in London at 11-year-old. So he's high level academic and a linguist. So he wrote a book called Caribbean and African Languages. So he's more about Creole, the Creole language. So I actually met him yesterday. So we had a lunch yesterday. So Dr. Dafinis, if you're there.
Yeah, am I visible?
Yes, you are, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Well, good to see you all again. I enjoyed the lecture by Dr. Lisa, in that it, with the scarce resources made available to us, looks at both the written documentation as well as the oral tradition, and with it also is looking at African philosophies as a way of making the connection between the past and the present. My own tools have been more linguistic, so I basically looked at a number of features of Creoles, a number of features of African languages, and then was able to say, well, look, this is not European for sure. This is definitely from Africa. As a kind of subtest to what I was doing, I divided it up into Creoles with French words, Creoles with English words, and Creoles with Portuguese words. So that way, my sifting was one which cut through the European and cut through the African, leaving you with clear strata of things which help us interpret the past and the present. My own island, St. Lucia, features in it because that's where I'm from. And my first language was the Creole from St. Lucia. I then learned other languages. So that's my journey. And I hope to discuss it more around my book, Caribbean and African Languages, although there's another more recent book, History and Language in St. Lucia, 1600 to 1900, which covers similar type of ground, but in much more detail in relation to St. Lucia. So that was it. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get to the lecture from the beginning. My wife took me on a 6-mile walk, so I can blame her.
Good.
We only just got back, allowing me to catch your lecture. But that's it there. I think that's plenty for an introduction.
Absolutely. And we're going to get together so we can have you on.
Okay.
Here in the very near future.
May I just make a comment? Very nice to meet you. And there is enslavement ship from Britain called the Hawk that left the Cameroon territory 1780/1781. Possibly captured 412 people, disembarked 377 people in St. Lucia. The mortality is 8.5%, and it disembarked in the year 1781.
Well, that's very good. If you could forward me the reference by email, I'd much appreciate it.
We will see if there's. I just pulled this one from this one is in the last book. But I will send it. I will send it to you via Brother Malcolm.
That's much appreciated. The main kind of division with the St. Lucians is 1600, the French dominating, importing and exporting, thus giving you Dahomians, Congolese, Wolofs and Mandinkas from Senegambia. From about 1800, the British take over St. Lucia, and you then get Igbos in high numbers, and that may have a link with Cameroon, obviously in terms of neighboring, and Ghanaians are the main imports then. But typically for the Creole, I'd be saying that as the initial languages are always the most important ones in terms of creating the language, that in the St. Lucian case, you're talking mainly about a Senegambian base. And then the others come in giving bits of vocabulary. But any reference is appreciated and can help extend what I've already written. Certainly, we also, even after slavery in St. Lucia, have got what they call the people from Sierra Leone who came in as indentured laborers, dominantly of Yoruba origin. But what I do in the second book is I take a a sample of about 1,000 or so, and I split them up into age group, youngest and oldest. I then split them up into ethno-linguistic groups. So you've got various graphs of various groups at various periods in St. Lucia, based at the records for the house slaves, as well as the records for the field slaves. That's where, you know, I suppose a lot of my work is around the statistical and the linguistic, or if you like, I feel safe in the factual and the statistical. But like you, my motivation, I guess, was through the ancestors, because that I can't really explain why from the age of 17 I had this interest and started from then. And in a sense, I mean, if one looks at spirit possession, I'd say, well, I was being possessed from the age of 17, and you know, the spirit let me go in my 20s. Anyway, that was it. I really enjoyed your lecture, and you know, we will meet again.
Just to add also, Professor Dr. Daphne,
just doctor.
It's a house. Dr. Daphne is a how live in Nigeria, and then he was actually teaching Hausa in northern Nigeria. So he was, he speak Hausa. He's fluent in Hausa.
Okay, well, it's useful to know the minds of your conquerors, both the potential internal enemy and the external enemy. And language is a great tool, because you can go into their minds for good, bad, and ugly. And I think, you know, I'd certainly recommend a book about the trans-Saharan slave trade with the Arabs. I can't remember it offhand, but I'll get it to you through Moncum. You may well have covered it anyway, but it basically points to how Africans were, let's say, dispersed to China as bodyguards, dispersed under Islam to various areas as soldiers, displaced as concubines, etc. So, but yet that was the basis of some of the ancient empires, you know, which in a sense points to some of the ambiguity you all were discussing about, you know, these guys were friends and these guys were enemies. So you know, what would they do to their enemies? I mean, Queen Amina of Zaria, a Hausa person, what she did was she castrated the Nupe, or a group of Nupe men, and then she had them build the walls of Zaria. As far as she was concerned, you know, she'd conquered them, and she had uses for them, as well as, but that is in the oral tradition only. She's famed for bringing, bedding a man at night and having him killed in the morning. But from her perspective, you know, she was queen, and you know, she was taught from an early age to be a ruthless leader. So these kind of human ambiguities are also things that we all struggle with in attempting to identify closely and at the same time be factual to oneself and be factual to others, while at the same time understanding where they're coming from. Anyway, many thanks, and I look forward to my little contribution when we next meet.
That's it's only little to your point of view. It's big to everyone else. So
yes,
we're waiting on it.
Okay, man.
So we're gonna have Brother Celesco, but before we have him come on, in the book you go through the different ships, and I know it's not an exhaustive, and I know you have more now from what you're saying. But I know, like, for my paternal line that goes back to Cameroon, you know, and from where they were in Beaufort, South Carolina. And, you know, when you call down there, like a lot of that stuff was destroyed in the Civil War. So sometimes you can't even go. But your book did show that there was a slave ship that went from Cameroon to South Carolina.
Yes.
And I was like, wow. And the farthest I could go back was 1802. And I'm like, okay, is that 1802 when this person was born? Or in 1802 when they thought he was born and he got here in 1806? But now looking at that, okay, there's that possibility that this person, that lineage came in 17 something, based on the first book. I don't have the second, the list of the second to see if there was other ones that came to South Carolina, but that was just like, wow, at least now you could put a little more meat on the bones, right? Like you don't have it perfectly, but all you can go is what you got right now.
Yes. I think it's a good beginning. There's more to come. What researchers who do this kind of work, what we need is more time. Time in the archives, time for community conversations, because you do this work while you're also teaching and grading. You got hundreds of students. So there is more coming, more time, more work. One of the things that we also, as I mentioned, yes, that connection to South Carolina, that is so clear. But what also happened with the enslaved is what is called transshipment. Is that the place where you were disembarked is not necessarily the place that you stayed. And you also could have worked, toiled as a slave at a particular place for years. Then the enslaver decides that they're going to move you to another area as well. So I encourage us to also to begin, yes, with maybe a place of disembarkation, but also to look at other possibilities. And there was, for instance, in the state of Louisiana, there was a lot of movement of the enslaved between Guadeloupe and Louisiana, Martinique and Louisiana. So there was a lot of movement. So that corridor, that Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, they had family relations. These were enslavers who were family that were moving people. Again, I go back to Michelle Obama's grandmother, who I write about, who was brought to one place, I believe South Carolina, was given as a gift to somebody in Georgia. I go back to the sister who asked a question about Tennessee. So, yes, so when we see the disembarkations, we see it Hampton, near Hampton, Virginia. Just in general, we see, South Carolina, we see Louisiana, but it does not mean that people necessarily stayed there for the rest of their lives. And I'm always, if you have a question, I'm available. I try to get back to folks as quickly as I can. If you have a question, because I would like to help as much as I can.
Thank you. Blessing. Okay, brother, this is the last one. The last one, because we keep going.
Yes.
We're going to be here.
Yeah, I still want to thank Dr. Lisa for working so hard to bridge the gap in that void that is created. And I just wanted to mention, since they were talking about language, that we are conscious of the fact that there's a void that has been created. Even when you say you are Chika or you are Bamileke, it's difficult to feel it. And so within our organization, the Diaspora Association for Indigenous Chika, we've instituted a project where the indigenous Chika language is being taught to the people. The classes are taught twice on Saturdays and on Thursdays, about 2 hours lessons, just the introductory, because we believe that language is like when you acquire a different language, there's a lot of philosophy, a lot of connection that you get to the people. Even their expression, in fact, it's like acquiring a second soul when you get a new language and you master it. And we believe this is going to be a very good cultural immersion program, because we also have some anthropological tips that the indigenous people tell you so that you don't go there and be like a complete stranger. In fact, when you go, you easily blend with them. For instance, when you greet in the language, you respond to cultural greetings in the way it is done. You decide that the bonding there will be much. And we're also conscious of the fact that where we are here, even the kids we've come and delivered here, if that cultural heritage is not being transmitted from one generation to the other, there'll be no difference between my own children and the children who came even as slaves 20 years after. There'll be that disconnect. And therefore, until you are able to build a cultural heritage, a group that you communicate, you transmit culture, you use language, you will not create the bridge. You will not be able to bridge the gap enough. So when they were talking about language, I knew that, okay, that is something we are doing. And if it is, even we encourage people to go home, but sometimes when you go there after about a week or so and you come back, the whole thing is lost. So that's why I just wanted to chip in about the importance of language. Thank you for having me.
So I'm gonna reach out this last time, and we don't want a long question or anything like that. Just a comment that anyone has before we close out with Dr. Aubrey, and then we'll give her the last few words.
I just want to tell her thank you for her time. I really enjoyed this. It's been a eye-opening for me, and I wish you peace and blessings, and you continue your great work.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Since no one else has opened up their mic, first I would like to say, Dr. Aubrey, it has been an honor and a pleasure and a privilege to be on here with you today and learn so much. And to think we didn't even get off of chapter 1, right? You didn't even for chapter 1, and you have blessed all of us on here today. So I just want to say from ReConnected Grassfields with Brother Malcolm that we definitely honor and appreciate everything that you're doing, for staying on here for 4 hours, just blessing us with everything you did. And we will schedule another time for you to be on so that you can maybe get the half of chapter 2. We'll just keep on. We'll keep on walking this thing down the road. So, with that being said, any last words before we go?
Asante sana, Gaping, Nasomjita. Thank you all so much, and this is the beginning. This is the beginning.
Thank you very much, and we'll see you later. And blessings to all the people who stayed on rode with us through this whole time. We definitely appreciate you, and we'll see you all in a couple weeks. We're going to get scheduled Dr. Phineas and I'm probably saying that wrong, and I apologize, Doctor. And there's a couple other people that we're going to have coming on in the next few weeks. So peace and blessings to everyone, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.